So I have us live right now.
You have us live?
No. Yes. You're fine.
My reception back here is kind of ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Walk out there, and you can. I mean,
Can you guys make sure you're viewing this to make sure that the background looks alright?
And booth.
We can move. We can back up a little so that like.
Maybe some combination of both.
We can
No,
go.
it's fine.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll adjust that to make it look. Yeah, let me go outside. Make sure
Okay.
this is actually live.
Yourself?
When you're out there, Dan, can you find a feature match for round 1? Or wait, they don't have pairings yet. Never mind.
Sam, how well does the Wi-Fi work? You guys going to stream this stuff tonight?
Yeah.
Like devotion, empty
Yeah.
notion.
MTGCM_live.
Like a roaring
See some what?
ocean,
Spooky. Yeah, but no, infected. Nice.
They should print one out. Oh, you want it?
Like devotion, empty notion. Like a roaring ocean, slowing motion. The smoke lingers after fire.
I mean, just run to the tape.
Yep. And no, our audio should be
which is a little concerning.
I mean, but I can pull us on the desktop site. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like sub here, so I don't know if like it's a different
We just have like
account. Yeah, well,
we can go live. Play over land with the play area is a different. It shows a different. This is like a. These top three
Salon's running animation audio.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, after a long hiatus, MTGCardmarket is back and we are streaming Modern. Tonight we're going to have a 4-round tournament featuring some very, very interesting players and their brews. I'm Matthew Cartier, I'm joined by Dan Dwan, and the first match should be getting underway shortly. Modern has...
Yeah, it's great to finally be back. I know we've been gone for good almost 6 months now.
This is true. We have been gone for a long time, but we are back now, and we should be consistently streaming basically every Wednesday. So if you're interested in Modern, and you like seeing some of the interesting brews that the players at the shop come up with, this is definitely the place to be on Wednesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. We should have a good mix of old familiar names and faces for long-time viewers of the stream, as well as over the last couple of months, we picked up a lot of new people at the shop as well. So
Yeah.
there should definitely be some fresh faces that haven't had camera time in the past.
It's always great to see like when new people come in and they have crazy brews. I know that I think we're gonna watch Green Black Delirium, which is also splashing colorless to play like Eldrazi tonight in the first round, and it's great to just see these see what our players here can come up with, because truly their creativity is inexhaustible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pino for a long time was on Fish. I'm not exactly sure if he's on that tonight, but
yeah,
so that's a solid test. Hey, Captain QC. Glad to see you guys. Glad to see you back again. Yeah, we did stop streaming for a while. Just kind of a mix of different real life issues, as well as kind of pushed the stream off for a couple of months. But yeah, we should be consistently back now.
Yeah, Legacy stream right now, we don't have plans to bring it back. Dan and I can really only commit to one night a week for Modern. But now with this coming back, there's a possibility that people will get interested in the Legacy stream again.
Long-term goal, of course, is just restore it to the schedule we had in the past, where there were Legacy streams on Thursday. Legacy is still well on the live here on Thursday as well, so if you're in the area, feel free to drop by.
Is the window, sorry chat, is the window still making music? Because at this point I've killed everything that makes audio.
Legacy is music.
Okay.
Cool.
Right.
I mean, I think we're gonna throw down to the player.
Play area. Let's see what's happening. Alright. Oh, we gotta change these up. So that's Barbuccio on the left here, and okay. Oh my god. Alright, yeah, right there. I got it. Alright. My bad. This should say 20 here for his life. So we have what looks like,
Looks like infect.
yeah.
Perhaps not quite the green-black delirium.
I thought it was going to be green-black delirium, but I guess Barbuccio might have declined to play.
Right.
Go find out who this is.
So,
Find out who this is. Just 1 second. Dan's going to hop out of the booth real quick, just so we know for certain who's playing, because I thought this was going to be a different match.
it is
It's Greg Pino? Okay. So, left player.
Pino.
Okay. Greg Pino. And he's on fish. And that on the right there is Salgado? Who is that?
Matt Barbuccio.
Oh, I thought he was playing green-black tonight.
Guess not.
Okay. All right, so it looks like Matt has
15.
He's down at 15 now, and what's the right player? He's at 15, and it looks like there should be
3 poison.
three poison for 15, and it looks like there should be 3 poison there for Greg, who took a hit from a Glistener Elf that had a mutagenic growth.
Right.
What do you think of this matchup? You know, does Merfolk sort of have to sit back and try to play the control game against this?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the problems with, especially Pino's list is he's almost mono blue. It's just, without Vapor Snags, you are just so light on removal.
Right.
Right.
And here we're going to see another attack, trading a Silvergill Adept for a Glistener Elf, and he'll take another 3 poison to 6.
Not falling to 13 from that Phyrexian mana. Oh no, Matt just hard paid for it.
Yeah. I mean, in that situation, if you don't have a better pump spell, I guess that's fine. You don't always have to use Phyrexian mana, and especially against Merfolk, you know, they can, you know, they play a Lord or two and suddenly you're dead.
Right.
But this looks pretty favorable for Matt here.
Like Greg's pulling that Spreading Seas to the front, which is always tempting. Like, it's clear that Matt kept a less than optimal hand.
Oh no, he cast the elf with the mana. He's at 13.
That was terrible.
Yeah. No, he cast the elf. He cast the second elf. Were we at 13? Yeah. Okay, so the Spreading Sea is going to lock him off green. So there goes the pump. The question is, if he has another mutagenic, isn't Greg just dead? Oh, and he has the next mutagenic.
Yeah,
so that is going to be game 1 there. Wow.
And that's why you see a lot of these Merfolk lists, the splashing white. I mean, it is almost free with 1-line hubs, and you know you can throw in a couple fetches and you play Hollow Fountains. But without the white, like, your removal is really scarce. You're limited to Vapor Snag and Dismember, and Vapor Snag really isn't a removal.
Right.
So, just like that, I mean, Greg cast 3 spells that game, and was just dead before that.
I don't know. I mean, there might have been an option to go instead of playing the Spreading Seas to turn off the green. I think I understand that because he did. Okay, to be fair, Barbuccio did mutagenic twice.
Right.
So him having the third mutagenic more or less likely than him having any pump spell he can cast with green.
No, absolutely. I mean, Greg was so far behind, especially just in Infect life,
right,
that he kind of had the bat for the fences, if you will.
I mean, once Infect gets those chip shots in, you know, every attack is suddenly just terrifying.
Right.
You know,
and the fact that Matt had a second creature that he could play, specifically they've had a second Glistener Elf because you know
he was on one land.
Was not good.
That was right. Okay. Sorry, we've just been informed that it is Brandon Salgado on Infect. That's our bad, folks. We will endeavor to know who this is better in the future.
Gotcha. Well, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah, because Barbuccio is very in love with his green-black deck. So in this matchup, if you're Merfolk, what are you looking to sideboard in? Do you have, like, I'm not super up on Merfolk sideboards, are they playing more Dismembers and stuff?
Yeah, so Greg has access up to 4. Some lists run up to 4 Dismembers, which, I mean, obviously excellent when your life
Right.
total is not under threat. Greg's also going to be on a play here, so if he has turn 1 Curse Catcher, all of a sudden now you have blocks.
Right, okay.
You're always a little bit... so with your Spreading Seas and stuff,
Yeah,
you can kind of turn off Ink Moths,
right.
which is also a nice nice option with this deck that you just have main deck versions of it. Greg also has the 1-mana version of...
Oh, he plays the Seize Claim.
He plays Seize Claim.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if he has access to 8 of those effects, but certainly at least 5 or 6.
Right, and that seems very strong. I found that Brandon will have an island because he wants to get Breeding Pool, but with Merfolk, drawing those Spreading Seas can be so critical. Just obviously Infect isn't trying to block, but those Spreading Seas can be incredibly disruptive.
Right. Yeah, all Greg really wants to do is just go wide enough. If you can block Glistener Elf with anything, you're just happy with that. The issue really is Blighted Agent. If you can't answer a Blighted, you're in trouble.
Sure, that makes sense. I think that with the other thing with the Glistener Elf is that with it being so blockable, do you cut Aether Vials here so you can sort of bring in creatures at instant speed to try to block, or do you think it's too slow?
I think if you play a deck with Aether Vials, you're kind of pricing yourself into it. Especially like if you have the turn 1 Aether Vial, it's just so incredible, right? Because you can finally deploy 2 creatures a turn.
Yeah, that's true. And this is obviously this is why sometime I assume that Salgado is playing some number of Distortion Strike.
Absolutely.
That seems amazing against a deck that is going to try to just block your creatures. And so Greg, he's going to mull the 6.
Right.
Did not like what he saw.
Greg, from what I saw, had a 4-lander with I think like 3 lords or some nonsense like that.
That's
Which, I mean, if you didn't know what you were playing, would be like a fairly reasonable hand,
Right.
but probably looking for a little more interaction here.
Can you check the round time?
And it looks like Brandon's happy on 7.
Yeah. I think that's a Blighted Agent closest to us that he just shuffled back into the middle of his hand. So that seems, like you were saying, that seems like a pretty important key to the matchup.
Importantly also, well, on Merfolk, you just don't have access to like the control elements like Spell Snare. You have Pierces, which are great for shutting off pump spells, but you don't really have a way of stopping them from playing the Glistener Elf or playing the Blighted Agent.
And as you said, he has Greg does have the turn 1 Curse Catcher this game off a Cavern, and he has a second Curse Catcher in hand, which seems insane. You now like you're saying, you can block the Glistener Elf. One thing that Greg is lacking is a blue source to cast Spreading Seas. His hand is. I think there's another Curse Catcher, there's a Reejerey, there's a Spreading Seas, and then there's a Mutavault. So he will not be able to disrupt the mana. But see, Brandon, with playing the Glistener Elf, has a ways to battle because you don't want to be wasting your pump spells just getting chumped by Curse Catchers.
Right. And that's one of the awkward draws. Ooh, Salgado is offering to block.
That
interesting.
Okay.
But that definitely suggests that Salgado has another
Infector for certain.
Right.
And that Pithing Needle probably going to come down and name Inkmoth Nexus, I assume.
Yeah, I can't think of a better target here in the dark.
Right. Yeah.
And we're just gonna go ahead and assume
that's Inkmoth Nexus. Yeah.
Assume that's what his name. Yeah. So Brandon fetching here again, falling to at least 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, 16 here.
16. Okay.
From the previous fetch.
Right. Okay.
And this, I mean, if you got turn 2 Blighted Agent, you play turn 2 Blighted Agent.
Right. I mean, I guess so. Actually, now that we see the Blighted Agent, the block to a degree makes sense. If Brandon doesn't want doesn't want Curse Catchers interfering with his, if he didn't want that Curse Catcher interfering with his pump, but now,
but at the same time, like taking one, it's
right.
It doesn't do anything, right? And just the value of having that Glistener Elf is quite high.
Yeah. That's fair, and I think it's also I think it's possible that he wasn't so much worried about the 1 as he was okay with trading with the Curse Catcher, because he had that he had it coming with the so and Brandon going to 12.
Yeah, casting a taxing probe, and seeing an uncastable spreading seas.
Right.
3 land and somehow no blue
Yeah.
source in the mono blue deck.
Okay, Brandon gonna pay 4 life here. Fall down to 8, casting a Dismember. Takes care of the Mirror Regery.
Which can get out of hand
Yeah.
when you start untapping stuff. Unfortunately, Greg is so low in cards that you can't do degenerate things with like
Yeah.
casting Silver Gill Adepts and like untapping to draw more. But
Right.
so fine, Lord.
Yeah. And now, okay, this has become immense.
Yeah, this is just a gigantic Become Immense.
And Salgado, having the fetch up, can pay for the whole Become Immense and pay for the Curse Catcher. If Greg had at this point had a second Curse Catcher, it's possible he could have countered that, but Become Immense, just huge pump spell.
Yeah, and with Become Immense in hand, the line makes a little more sense, especially like
Right.
you get the Glistening Elf in the graveyard.
Yep. And Greg gonna go up to 7 poison off that one huge swing.
But taking Brandon down to 5 here,
Right.
possibly 4, if he decides to crack this fetch here.
Yeah, this is where it can get really dicey for Infect. Brandon with that Dismember really, he chunked himself pretty hard, and
I mean, if Greg had drawn a land there,
and animated the second Mutavault. Yeah.
if he had drawn it as right, like he currently has almost lethal on board. Right, second land is, fourth land is lethal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the thing is though, is if Brandon has like any pump spell, like actual anything, Greg is just dead. So.
But
I think Brandon might be playing around Dismember. I think I see at least one Apostle's. I actually don't think Brandon has a pump spell.
yeah, there is an Apostle's Blessing in hand though.
Yeah, but this doesn't kill Greg faster.
But Glistening Elf is going to do some work.
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
Ooh,
and another
Blighted
Blighted
Agent.
Agent.
There we
okay.
go.
So what is, I guess, wow, so Greg needs to somehow like put a Lord into play. And that seems very difficult with his current hand. I guess he's going to go for the Silver Gill here.
Yep. Silga showing out
But
showing the Lord.
Showing the Lord, but I just, there's 2 Blighted Agents, and those will swing for 2, and...
If Greg had drawn, I don't know. The problem is, with the double Mutavault draw, somehow
Yeah, if
he
had,
still doesn't have access to casting one Master of the Approach,
yeah.
right?
If he had drawn a blue source there, it would have been lethal, though. Brandon going to 3 now, but I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, Brandon, just turn all of these sideways. So you can block one of them.
Okay. There, he's got a Hierarch here.
Hmm,
And he's only going to attack with 1.
interesting.
Okay. And I think, yeah, that's going to do it.
Attacking
Greg,
with the 1 is just good enough.
Yeah, Greg is not going to have it, and Brandon Salgado will take down this match.
I mean, that line of play does play around Dismember, with Greg being still being at 20.
Right, and Brandon did have an Apostle's Blessing, so he knew he had an out to 1 removal spell.
Right. So yeah, Brandon also had the line of just attack with all 3 Infectors, and then that's also lethal. Especially with the Apostle's Blessing backup, you don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Right, so it's either 2 from the Exalted Trigger, or 1 from each of the Blighted Agents.
Yeah, Greg was only a blue source away from winning that game there.
That was really close.
If that last draw was just Island, he gets to play Lord, Animate, Mutavault, and attack for 5.
Right, and Brandon can't block because they'll have Island Walk.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean...
So yeah, Greg was just an island away from winning that game.
Yeah.
Shockingly, the mono blue deck
did not have the island.
sources.
Yeah. When I've played around with Merfolk before, it's actually a bigger problem than you think, because you're playing... If you don't have, if you draw multiple Mutavaults, your blue Lords just get so...
Oh, right.
So frustrating.
It's always incredibly awkward when you draw multiple of your colorless land.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to go out there and look for another match.
Yeah.
Since this one was fairly quick.
Yeah, we're going to jump to intermission just briefly. We are going to find another match, and we will be right back with you. Like every 2 or 3. Okay.
Let me just talk about that. Like, if they finish, like, let's not.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and we're back from a short break. Right now, there's no matches that are currently in between games, but we're going to be popping out every couple minutes to check. And once Dan gets back here, I think we're probably going to talk about just Modern in general. There's been a lot of articles lately written by lots of different people about how they're going to try to fix the format. Should the format be fixed? We have a match. All right, we have a match, people. So the general discussion of Modern will have to wait for another day.
And by another day, we mean another hour or so.
Yeah. And who are we watching?
We are watching Martin versus Sean. Martin is on Emeria.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And Sean is on Bant Good Stuff?
Bant, good stuff. I like it.
Yeah.
I think I saw him with the Reflector Mage.
There was a Reflector Mage.
Okay, what game is it?
This is going to be game 2. Martin took it down with in game 1.
Okay. So we will wait to see which sides of the table they end up on as we clear and reset everything. Yeah, so when you say Bant good stuff, are we talking like Geist of Saint Traft good stuff, or
We're at least talking Lockstone Smiter.
oh, Loxodon Smiter, excellent, excellent.
Such a beating against Liliana.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Plus this Lily. Oh, here, have this.
Yeah.
let me give this to you.
They just used to be I guess I instantly lost the game here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, looking at Sean, that's a Selfless Spirit, Spell Scout.
Oh wow. Okay, so he's really on that Bant goodness then. And we'll call it Bant mid range for mid rangey goodness. What's he saying? Just pulling out these. Looks like there's sideboarding here. Martin got the first one, so let's get current match record 0. And
Cool. So yeah, we're just doing some quick sideboarding here.
Yeah. Yeah. So with this Emeria deck, I've played against Martin on it before. Sometimes Sometimes there's a single Godless Shrine for a black splash. It's. He's done some weird stuff with this deck. I wouldn't. He might just be playing the standard Emeria list.
Yeah, for people who aren't aware of what this deck does, there's two primary engines to it. One is Emeria, which is
it's a land.
It's a land. I was gonna call it an all-star, but then that's
it's just a land.
All-star might be overselling it a little bit.
Only a little.
What it does though is it does give you inevitability.
Yeah.
And I mean, you do need to have 8 land in play at least.
Right.
At least 8 land.
Well, because so the Emeria deck plays some islands, it plays some ghost quarters. So you can get to 8 or 9 lands even and
still not have
it.
it.
But
Right.
once you turn Emeria on and you're
it's hard to lose the game with
Yeah.
an active Emeria.
well especially against a fair deck like this is. Emeria beats up on decks that, are attempting to play fair by having just cheap value creatures like Wall of Omens and Lone Missionary that then get infinitely recurred with Emeria. And also, what's really messed up is when there's a Sun Titan involved.
Right. And Sun Titan is kind of the other engine.
Mm-hmm.
Sun Titan is kind of like Emeria, except it's ETB and on attack. It definitely gets overshadowed by its bigger cousin Primeval Titan.
Yeah, no, Sun Titan's certainly not the most popular Titan in the format, but when you watch an Emeria player go, on my upkeep, return this Sun Titan, I will also return
anything.
Yeah, return anything. Well,
Yeah.
So what this deck can do to sort of burn people out almost is every turn, return Sun Titan, return Mortar Pod, end of turn, sack Sun Titan to Mortar Pod. I have seen people just die from this, and it's horrifying.
Right, and that's the strength of the Emeria deck. It's because you have so many poor creatures in deck. You're able to just main deck a lot of Wrath of God effects, Supreme Verdicts.
Yeah.
And it's just fine because you're not really losing board presence.
And you gain tons of life off of Lone Missionary, which means it's easier to play the slower removal spells when your creatures are. You don't care that you're chump blocking with your creatures because eventually your Emeria will bring them back and your opponent will be extremely sad when you get to that point of the game.
Generally, the idea is either you interact with their graveyard or you just kill them before turn 10. Which, I mean, in the modern format is not necessarily difficult, per se. A lot of games don't go late enough for Emeria to allow...
for any real action.
Yeah, for Emeria to really go off. But at the same time, it does have a lot of grinding value.
Yeah, and I think that, in this situation, Sean is just going to be attempting to kill as fast as he can, because this feels like one of those matchups where Emeria is just a little bit slower and a little bit more inevitable, and I would definitely, against this mid-range deck that Sean's playing, I would definitely give an initial sort of edge to Emeria just because it's just, you can't grind it out as mid-range. If you're trying to grind people out on cards, Emeria does not care. Mm-hmm. And also they have they have creatures that draw cards. It's ridiculous.
And Sean's got an interesting hand here. Reflective Mage is obviously not the greatest in this matchup,
right.
But I mean it's a fine tempo play.
Yeah, he does have a Meddling Mage.
Right, that's Meddling Mage right in front. Which I mean, if you name Supreme Verdict, if you name Path to Exile, all of a sudden the interaction is much lower.
Yeah.
Crimson Viper, we've been gone for some time.
Yeah, this is.
Mark is in chat though, so we do have to thank him for all the work he's done on the stream.
Yeah, especially just helping it get set back up. He was very patient while I sort of fumbled around and attempted to do things last Sunday when I was sort of learning what was going on. So Sean's hand, he's got a Meddling Mage, he's got a Loxodon Smiter. They're coming in with that Noble Hierarch to start things off.
Right, and this is going to be an excellent start because turn 2 Loxodon, I mean, it's just a 4/4.
Right.
That's a clock.
It beats. And it is the other thing about Loxodon, he's going to attack with the Hierarch here. Okay.
And I think Sean's pricing himself into turn 2
Meddling Mage?
Meddling Mage.
Okay.
Which, if he has... he might not have access to... No, he does have access to turn 2 Locks on Smiter if he wanted it.
Yeah. So...
Ooh, maybe...
Wait, he passes back and Martin is going to go to 23
Yeah.
off that Lone Missionary.
Lacking the... I thought that was an island hand, but apparently
I thought it
not.
was too. Yeah.
This,
that's very good though here.
Yeah. Well, attacking the Noble Hierarch obviously
Right.
makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Relic Sage... Relic is fine, I guess. He may be forced to crack it for cards.
Right.
I mean, it feels bad, but at a certain point, even if they're just playing 1/1s, you're gonna die to these 1/1s if you can't hit a second land drop.
Right. And also Martin here plays a Pilgrim's Eye next, just a cheap flyer that gets you a Plains. Sean does find the land though, so he will pay 3, and that is a Thalia Heretic Cathar from
Ooh, baby.
from Eldritch Moon.
Yeah, so Thalia did get a lot of hype, and it is... it got a lot of hype in Standard, and there was some talk about it being played in older formats as well. The non-basics entering play tapped is really, really brutal in mine.
Right.
If you have a turn 2 Thalia, that can really set your opponent back
Right.
a lot of turns. All of a sudden, fetch lands, when they come into play, tapped
That's
is
so bad.
It's embarrassing if you're going to get a shock, and that comes into play tap too. That's like, quite embarrassing as well.
Oh, I'm being corrected in chat. No, wait, it's from Eldritch Moon, right? That's the Eldritch Moon symbol with the spooky spook.
This is Eldritch
Oh,
Moon, yes.
and also, so we can see here, this Ghost Quarter actually had to enter tapped for Martin. They did recognize that. Also, this Thalia, this swings into basically every blocker that Martin can play because of the first strike. So the Lone Missionary, I found, when you have a 1 or 2 toughness creature, is very frustrating because it's a great blocker and it'll trade and already gain Martin some life. But with this Thalia on board, plus Exalted Trigger from the Hierarch. No, this is right.
Yeah, Martin just chipping in for 1 with Pilgrim's Eye.
Yeah.
Standard All-Star? Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Standard All-Star.
when you sacrifice when you emerge an Elder Deep Fiend off your Pilgrim's Eye, that seems excellent.
Yeah.
Here's a Flicker Wisp from Martin.
Comes into play tapped.
Yeah, and he's gonna flicker his Pilgrim's Eye. I mean, these are the little grindy interactions that make Emeria so strong. They're you flicker your Pilgrim's Eye, you get more lands and stuff. But yeah, actually, this Thalia, putting into play tap. This is an attack for 4 here, and I think Martin is just going to. Oh, he'll chump with the Lone Missionary. That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. So. And then follow-up play here.
Probably
Smiter.
Lockstone?
There it is. Yeah.
Just a big body.
Get smote. And an activation of the Relic just to keep Emeria off the graveyard. Relic is very good if you can keep up with Emeria's graveyard, because you exile all their targets from Emeria.
No, it does bear pointing out that Sean's on the 4-turn clock here.
This is true.
This is 4 turn there.
Yeah, no, this is one thing that actually I think people and then a Supreme Verdict follow-up. Wow, that's excellent for Martin. He gets in his damage. Martin doesn't care that he doesn't have a board, and also because Sean's mana is so constricted. Okay, he found a breeding pool. But before he found that breeding pool, his mana was so constricted that there were very few plays in his hand that he could make. But now there's a Knight of the Reliquary in there. There's the Meddling Mage. But Emeria, what we just saw, if you let their creatures build up a board and just start pinging you in the air, you will eventually just start getting ground down.
And Sean playing Thalia here. I don't know. Personally, I might have leaned toward the Knight plan.
Yeah.
I mean, Knight currently is only a 2/2.
Yep. And here comes a Sun Titan, though. Oh no. This is going to be gross because he's going to get the Flicker Wisp, and he's going to target the Sun Titan, and he's going to. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of value. This is the dream, right?
This is Martin's deck sort of going off. I hesitate to say that Emeria goes off because it's so ponderously slow, but like this is why you play the deck.
Right.
Sean needs Path to Exile for that Sun Titan
Immediately. Yes.
I think he's actually just like, I guess he can block it, but you know, he doesn't have answers right now.
No, and
He just might be dead.
the often forgotten line on Sun Titan is Vigilance.
True.
So
It attacks and blocks.
Right.
But here, actually, Sean does have a Reflector Mage in hand, so that can buy him 2 turns. You know, as we all know,
But-
Reflector Mage, standard All-Star, but you know, finding some play here.
Yeah, but missing the second land drop just slow down Sean's clock so much that I mean Martin can just sit here and take 3 a couple turns. It's just
Yeah.
fine.
I think that I'm not sure that you know if attacking with the Hierarch was right because Sean could have played Meddling Mage even and gotten something on the board because he did have 2 mana with the Hierarch.
He did have blue white.
Yeah.
It's difficult to know what to name in the dark. I mean,
That's
at that
true.
point, you probably name Supreme Verdict just because
Yeah.
Path to Exile is like that's fine.
You path my Meddling Mage, my mana's bad already.
Right.
Yeah, and so Reflector Mage will bounce the Sun Titan here. 3 lands, Court Hussar possibly, or Detention Sphere. That's excellent too for Martin. And yep, Detention Sphere gonna enter the battlefield. Name Thalia Heretic Athar, and she is gone. Goodbye. Actually, you know what's actually quite good here. I mean, Sean obviously has to deal with these flyers, but he can play the Meddling Mage and stop the Sun Titan from ever coming back, assuming there's no. And that Pithing Needle probably naming Relic here.
Yeah, Sean is.
Yep, he points to the Relic, so it looks
Right.
like Pithing Needle is going to turn off the Relic.
Sean could have activated it in response to the Pithing Needle.
He doesn't have mana to pop it.
No,
though.
just tap it.
Oh, but these are all exiled up here. There's actually nothing in the graveyard for Martin right now.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Yeah, and another Flicker Wisp. So Sean is actually now on a 1-turn clock with these flyers. You know this banned mid-range deck I think is just having a
Having a rough go at it.
yeah.
Yeah, the Pilgrim's Eye going to come back, draw another land.
Gross.
And now Sean's drawing very thin.
Yeah,
I'm not quite
he
sure
needs,
what
he actually has to have like Path, but he also needs to play Meddling Mage.
Technically can do both.
Right, and he's just going to put it on the table. There is a Collected Company in hand, but it is not going to be enough.
Right, no 4th land for that Collected Company, and that will be the match.
That will do it.
Yeah.
Martin Sheeler.
Unfortunately, Sean on a pretty rough mulligan to 6. I mean, you kind of forced to keep that 1 lander with a Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, I think so as well. There is a possibility he could have gone with. He did have a Dramoka's command, so maybe you can go Reflector Mage, counter, fight a Flicker Wisp. That gives you another draw step. But that also prevents you from Martin will now just replay the Sun Titan, and you truly do not have an out to the Sun Titan.
Right.
So yeah, no, he really, Sean, 3 lands in a Collected Company deck is never what you want to see.
No, especially when that 2nd and 3rd land came well behind schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, because it was land drop and then he missed on his 2nd land, so that's just that's brutal. And yeah, Gibbous M, we are back. Thank you for popping in as a mod. We appreciate it greatly.
And we do apologize for just disappearing.
Off the face of the planet?
Yeah, around 6 months ago. But yeah, we should be back. It's great to see all of you guys back here again.
Yeah, no, this is good, and I think we might be able to squeeze in another game if there are still matches going on. So we're gonna go check that briefly. So we're gonna put up the intermission screen. We will be back very shortly with Card Market Modern. mute the mic, sure.
Empty notions, like a roaring ocean, slowing motion. Lay down your troubled mind. We are only kind, and will kindly cease to be as we intertwine with their universe and its cosmic symphony. The smoke lingers after fire. The smoke lingers after fire. Blinded potion, empty notion.
All right, and we are back here at MTG Card Market. The matches out front are finishing up now, but we had this past weekend we had an SCG Open in Orlando, and the results from that were the top 8 looked a little bit interesting. I think we should start with Tom Ross. Just plays the decks that he wants to play, and then
Yeah.
wins 8 rack.
Yeah, Tom Ross was on feature camera quite a few times that weekend.
Yeah.
Just played pretty stock 8 rack. Nothing too spicy.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah, and so he
top 8'd with it.
And the I think one thing that I wanted to ask you about was sometimes I've seen 8-rack play Ensnaring Bridge, obviously, to prevent creature aggro decks from doing it. But Tom didn't seem like he was playing, or at least I didn't see ever on camera. I never saw him cast a bridge. Yeah, and his list actually doesn't have bridge in it. So
Yeah,
that
it doesn't look like there's a bridge in Tom Ross's 75, which is really surprising.
yeah, no, and I think so he was playing the smallpox build, and he was also mainboarding 4 dismember, so maybe
Seems
he felt
fine.
like that was the best way to deal with creatures. And actually, it's interesting because bridge is often so very good, Some decks just literally cannot beat a bridge. Like Merfolk game 1, nothing. They're actually cold to bridge. But, in a field with a lot of affinity, Signal Pest laughs at your bridge, right? You can swing with your Signal Pest, you can instant speed equip a plating, so bridge might not be as effective against that or against infect.
Right, and the problem with playing main deck bridge in a lot of decks is that you have to draw to it. You built your deck in a way that you need the bridge.
Right.
Notably, Lantern. Lantern almost requires a bridge game 1.
Right. Oh, certainly.
If you fall behind on board at all, it's bridge or bust, and that's all you're digging for. Everything else can come secondary to it. So the fact that Tom Ross was able to configure a 75 that allowed him to still survive without a bridge is impressive. Now, admittedly, the number of times I saw him on camera, he was pretty lucky with his infect opponent mauling to 4 and then 5, which
It happens.
I mean, when you top 8 event, you have to get
lucky
lucky somewhere. And Tom Ross
he draws
played well and got lucky where he needed to.
Yeah. One thing that this is running, maybe not directly in replacing Bridge, but he is running Smallpox, which not all 8-rack lists will run. And Smallpox can be very effective against matchups that get much worse, like Infect with the Bridge. Making them sacrifice their creature is really strong because you're not targeting their creature, and you're not, they can't Apostle's Blessing a Smallpox. Like Edict effects at a low to the ground level like that can be very strong. Your opponent goes, you're on the play, you play a land, your opponent goes Glistener Elf, you play a land Smallpox them, like, ugh, that's disgusting.
Well, and also notably, Smallpox is excellent against Death Shadow. Because on two fronts. One, Death Shadow obviously doesn't have haste, but your mana base is terrible in Death Shadow. You have just one of each shock.
Yeah.
Once you lose it, it's just gone.
Right.
You can get to the point where you just can't cast a lot of things.
You don't have fetch targets.
Yeah, you run out of fetch targets. And I mean, admittedly, the deck is built in that way.
Right.
But that's kind of some incidental damage.
Yeah.
Now, it's surprising that he did do so well, considering that decks like Dredge are in the field. Mm-hmm. Where
this deck does not seem like it beats Dredge most days.
No, I mean...
Oh, all Ravens crime you. Cool. Drop my Grave Troll.
Exactly. And in the main deck, at least, doesn't necessarily look like he has any interaction with the graveyard. So,
yeah, I mean, sometimes you just dodge Dredge.
I mean, without Bridge in game one, I don't know how you win game ones.
I think it's actually impossible. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you can kill Dredge fast enough with Mutavault.
Yeah, it's just like Rack and Shrieking Fiction. They're not gonna get the job done against Dredge.
No, I mean, well, when you're literally in, like, Dredge literally plays cards to do the same thing that 8-rack does.
No, admit, there is a line where if Dredge goes to him and discards their entire hand, and then all of a sudden you play, Shrieking Affliction, Shrieking Affliction of Rack, and then all of a sudden it's like...
Yeah,
takes,
2-turn clock, yeah.
That is one line, but short of Dredge going completely ham on their hand size, it just seems unwinnable.
I definitely think that's true. Okay, I guess, he did concede to the matchup a little bit. He's got 2 Relic and 1 Leyline of the Void in the sideboard. And he also has a Flaying Tendrils.
Which is fine.
It's just, for the amount of Dredge that theoretically exists in Modern, this is not necessarily what you want to be doing. Although I feel like it's one of those matchups where people are scared of Dredge. It's like Affinity. People are scared of Dredge. People pack for Dredge, people are scared of Dredge. People pack for Dredge, and then Dredge loses a bunch of games.
Right. And you see that a lot. People, especially for SCG events, will over sideboard for a deck, and all of a sudden you're at the top, your tier 1 decks. All of a sudden just don't show up on day 2.
Right.
There was that famous, I think it was SCG Indy, where the previous SCG, I think like 6 of the top 8 spots were like Abs and Company, and it failed to put a single copy into day 2.
I mean, you play enough Grafdigger's Cage, like Abs and Company is really sad because their creatures are not going to do it. Like Grafdigger's Cage, cool.
But yeah, I mean, 8-rack's just been a deck that's been around for a long time. It might have just been a meta call. There are certainly some matchups that are fairly rough. Anything that can like apply pressure can just kill you before you assemble your nonsense.
One, I guess, like, you're saying it's been around for a while. The only sort of concessions to recent cards we see, we have the Flaying Tendrils, like we mentioned. The sideboard is also playing
Asylum Visitor.
2 Asylum Visitors, yeah. So, that's at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So theoretically, you can draw 2 cards if you're both Hellbent.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget, it also has Madness too, which we did see come into play. There was a match where you uptick Liliana, and all of a sudden you have a free card.
Make a 3/1, yeah.
Yeah, which is fine.
That seems fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much 8-rack we're going to see in future tournaments, but Tom Ross, putting on the show like he always does.
Right. And again, it's one of kind of those tier 2, tier 3 decks.
Yeah.
That shows it's always been a thing. Could just be a good meta call.
Yeah.
But other than that, the top 8 looks pretty standard. Nothing too shocking. There's a 4-color retreat deck.
Yeah, let's talk about this deck. So this is Eli Cassis. He's basically, so he's playing everything but black. And
I would just describe this as Collected Company good stuff.
yeah, basically, he's got main deck Is It Static Caster. Main deck Static Caster. Yo, you can make a lot of people really sad with a main deck Is It Static Caster. Holy moly. Like, game 1 against Affinity and you have Static Caster? Like, who are you? Like, Eli Cassis, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. And Static Caster has haste, so, you Coco into it, and all of a sudden, things are dying.
Yeah, I mean, that's tap it, shoot your guy. I mean, yeah, this deck looks crazy.
One thing with Static Caster that a lot of people forget is that it makes combat very difficult.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like, the potential of putting 1 extra damage on your opponent's creatures, 2/3s don't just bounce off of other 2/3s anymore.
Right, no, absolutely true. And you also, you see he's playing 2 of Spellqueller, which we've seen popping up in more and more modern lists lately. There's been some Jeskai lists that have done well with it. We see it here in this 4-color retreat deck. This card seems like it actually could be legitimately playable.
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent tempo play. I mean, a 2/3 flyer is nothing to scoff at, especially with Flash. And, I mean, in the decks that are running this, a lot of times the removal is really taxed. Like, you're going to bolt a turn 1 birds, and, I mean, you want to kill voices. There's a lot of targets that you want to kill, and all of a sudden, like, yes, Spellqueller is boltable, but there's a lot of bolt targets.
Right, and also, Spellqueller, interestingly, because it says exile target spell with CMC 4 or less, it eats Supreme Verdict quite nicely, which is, I think, is a very good reason to be playing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just Supreme Verdict. Like, when you think of the modern format, like, what costs more than 4? I mean, aside from what Tron and, like, maybe a Drowsy Smasher, there are very few cards in modern that are played that cost more than 4. So this is just like,
sometimes it's just counterspell.
It's counterspell on the body.
Yeah. And also, like, this gets around can't be countered clauses too. So it's even possibly, obviously if they do have removal, if they don't have removal, this card is insane.
Right.
And I think that, I don't know if people are going to play it as a 4 of and it's going to be like Tarmogoyf crazy, but like this card seems like it actually has a place in the format, which I think a lot of people, because of the 3 toughness, were a little bit hesitant to say this card is going to be good in modern just because everyone knows it as the bolt format.
Well, I mean, it also interacts well with a lot of cards. Like, if you Spellqueller an opponent's Mana Leak, even if your 2/3 dies, Mana Leak, I mean...
Mana Leak is useless, you're right, yeah.
Even, like, you Spellqueller Remand. If you try to put that Remand back on stack without a target, it doesn't work so well.
Right. Yeah, and there's, there's all sorts of cute things you can do with Spellqueller. Also in this list, another card that we've seen again in modern decks and sideboards, Selfless Spirit. Another recent addition to Standard. This card also, it's Wrath Protection with the body, right? Like, there are people at Card Market who play spirits, and you see a Selfless Spirit, and you have Anger of the Gods in hand, and you're just okay. Like, I guess I'm not gonna wipe your whole board.
Yeah, I think one thing that Selfless Spirit generated the most excitement for was for a lot of the Kiki core decks. Having a
instant speed Wrath Protection.
Right, courting for 2 is much easier to do than courting for 3.
Sure.
Because I mean, there was already this effect at 3 before.
Loxodon? No, it's something Escort.
A Dauntless Escort.
Dauntless Escort
had this effect at 3, but being at 2 that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and also I think in modern this it seems more okay to just like play a Selfless Spirit because it only costs 2 mana, right? Like, it's less like Dauntless Escort for a 3/3 for 3 that, if it gets bolted, you've invested 3 mana in it.
Right.
And also Selfless Spirit has evasion, which can be relevant on like big stalled board states. You just keep chipping for 2, and then when your opponent attempts to remove your creatures, if you think it's going to be bad enough, you just sacrifice your Selfless Spirit.
It's the eternal problem you have when your opponent plays Snapcaster. At what point do you just bite the bullet and bolt it? I mean, how many times do you have to take 2 before you actually bolt it?
Exactly. This is like you know, it's just it's just like, oh, there's a 2-power creature on the board. I really don't want to have to use removal on it.
No, it does bear mentioning that part of the namesake of this deck, that
4-color retreat.
yeah, is that it runs 2 retreat to Korapalm.
Yeah.
Which the combo primarily is for Knight of the Reliquary, where you can just make a very, very large knight and then just.
This list, though, is not playing Sajiri's Step or the other things that would let the knight get through. So it seems like, you know, and also with only 2 retreats, it seems like a retreat almost might be more of a, I can make a big knight with this, but, you know, scry 1 on landfall, like if your board is stabilized, that will add up eventually, I think.
I mean, if you play a retreat on turn 2, that can, you know, chalk up to scry 8, scry 9 over the course of the game.
Yeah.
Which adds up.
And also having fetch lands with this means that with the retreat out, you can do very silly things during your opponent's beginning of combat step, because you can tap their attackers, you can use it to tap blockers, you know, like, oh, go to my turn, I'll play a fetch, like, you know, end of your turn, sacrifice a fetch land, tap one of their blockers. Go to your turn, play a fetch land, tap one of their blockers, sack it, tap another one of their blockers. You know, this thing helps push through damage as well as generate like incremental card advantage with the scry. But not being all in on the retreat plan means that, you know, this deck also can just play like a more grindy game. I think one of the problems with Bant Retreat was like, if your knights just keep getting path, there's actually nothing like the deck is like much worse.
You just have 4 random retreats that aren't really doing anything.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, also this deck does not run Court of Calling, which you see a lot of the decks. In part because there just isn't room.
Yeah, no, this deck is extremely full.
If you're playing the Coco deck, you're already kind of pricing yourself into having enough Coco targets.
Like 26, 28 creatures at least.
And then, you know, you're playing retreats, you have to play some number of path, right?
Right.
So then all of a sudden you just no longer have enough room in your deck.
Yeah, and also we see that Eli Cassis is playing 1 Nahiri the Harbinger. This is something that, you know, there are like Kiki Chord lists that play Nahiri. I personally play 1 Nahiri in Jeskai Resto Kiki control. But it's a, you know, this card can sometimes just win you the game because, you know, you either tutor for what you need or you improve your hand. And also just like, it deals very well with some just like random things. It's like, oh, that is an enchantment that I can now exile with Nahiri instead of, you know, having...
Right.
You know, this deck has a reclamation stage, but some decks, you know, don't have enchantment removal main, and Nahiri not only gets rid of it, it exiles it, which is even more powerful sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to just filter your card draws later in the game is excellent.
Do you want to try to get Matt now?
Oh, okay. Looks like we already have a match getting set up here, so we're going to throw it down to the play area and get started here.
All right, let's get editing. Yeah, okay. Yep, so we're just gonna... Wait, I have some. I'm gonna find out who's playing here for the second round. And, all right. Get these names and decks all reset. Right player, deck name. Clear this. Left player, deck name. Clear this. Yeah, so we are about to get underway. I can hear Cam calling from out there that this round is about to start. Yeah, so we will return most likely to talk about maybe 1 or 2 more lists from the SCG. But right now, see who's playing, and then we can get underway. Right player name. And right player life at 20. And who do we have?
This is Matthew versus
Rick?
No, Barbusho versus Rick, yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's Matt over there. So on the right here. So Matt is, I believe, playing Green-Black Delirium, as we erroneously stated before before we start. And do you know what Rick is on tonight?
I do not.
All
it's
right.
going to just be a surprise.
And Matt said he's on green black team. Yeah, so I've talked about this list a little bit with Matt, but basically it's green black, and then he also plays. He has a colorless splash. Okay, so it looks like Rick is on fish. So we're gonna have another Merfolk on camera. I think there's like 3 or 4 Merfolk decks in the room actually. There's not. I was when I was walking around earlier, it looked like that was the case. So
Yeah, the popularity of Merfolk kind of ebbs and flows.
boo. But yeah, I agree with that.
If you just have the core like Aether Vials, the deck itself is like fairly economical to put together.
Right. Yeah.
I mean-
So. Yeah. No. I mean, what else is expensive in that deck? Right. Nothing.
There's not a whole lot of expensive cards now.
All right. So
The Mutavaults cost a little bit.
did Matt cast a turn 1 traverse the Ulvenwald
He
here?
did.
All right. Well, that is something that.
Now, this is certainly a standard All-Star.
Yes, absolutely. Search your library for a basic land, reveal it, and put it to your hand. Or with Delirium, it just becomes sort of Green Sun Zenith.
Well, not quite.
Almost. I mean, it doesn't put it directly into play, but it costs the same mana.
Yeah, that's fair. Rick playing Silvergill Adept, revealing Curse Catcher.
Man, Silvergill Adept is such a good card. Just,
Yeah.
you play it and you draw and you're like, oh wait, I'm never going to run out of gas because I'm Merfolk for life.
Always the awkward turn 2 draw
Your second
your,
Merfolk.
no,
yeah.
draw your Curse Catcher
Right.
and reveal it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, most certainly. And Matt here, gonna go with the Thoughtseize. So he will fall down to... He's actually at 17 after taking a pain to cast that Traverse off of Llanowar Wastes. The Llanowar Wastes is there to cast Thought-Knot Seer, as far as I'm aware in the main deck. So yeah, he will take the Master of Waves. Seems like a pretty good pick here. I guess he's not worried about the Spreading Seas shutting him off green.
Right. I mean, you're only there's not much value taking the Curse Catcher on a board like this. So your option really is either Spreading Seas or the Master.
Yeah.
Master is pretty difficult to deal with, especially if you don't have removal in hand.
Right. And Niall's Spellbomb is going to be the follow play for Matt. Just some graveyard hate, puts an artifact in the graveyard and lets him cycle a card. Matt is going to go to 15 here off that hit from the Silvergill Adept. And Curse Catcher now?
Yeah, Rick is just going to play everything that Matt saw in his last turn.
Yep. Curse Catcher out there, preventing that preventing that from happening, and and yep, just gonna beat for 2 there.
So, Matt's just looking for a good time to crack the Spell Bomb.
Right.
In this matchup, it's really not doing anything. And if he's forced to, he can always crack it, lose a card from it. But
that doesn't seem great against Merfolk because they have a...
Right. But
what?
it can enable Delirium.
What is that card? Oh... We're going to have to go find out what that card is.
Chad, can you help us out here?
What?
What cost...
It costs...
2.
What is that thing? Yeah, Dan is gonna run out and look at what that card is because we are. Oh, it's a seal, Dan. It's a seal of something. Seal of Doom. All right. Slivortol in the chat. You're a hero. Thank you for telling us what this card is and what it does. Okay, so it's a 3 mana. This again is helping fuel Delirium for Matt, and that is a Spreading Seas. That will be targeting the Eldrazi Temple. Yeah. Well, okay, so that is actually the second Spreading Seas that was cast. So Matt right now has access to black, blue, blue against this increasing board of fish.
Right. There is not 5 power on board. Matt can crack the seal at any time.
Yeah.
Ideally, he's going to wait and hit a Lord with it, but he might be forced to just crack it on an Adept pretty soon here.
I mean, I think that's the thing with Merfolk is when if they don't have to commit their lords to the board, it can get very challenging because you have to deal with the pressure, but then they just play the lord and they hit you for more next turn.
Right. And it's worth pointing out, Rick also does have a Mutavault in play.
Right, so 7 power on board then?
Right, 7 power.
Yeah.
Fairly difficult to interact with. And Matt just with kind of an anemic draw.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's going to cycle the Spell Bomb here. Is that a Dismember? I think it might be.
But, I mean, are you really going to pay 4 life Dismember?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
Right.
Like, it seems not great, but at this point, Matt is just behind on everything. I don't think there is a Lord in Rick's hand. He has a Harbinger of the Tides, which he revealed to the second Silver Gill, but he doesn't have, obviously the Lord that would turn this into
Super lethal.
Yeah, if Rick draws a Lord, he can swing for 11.
Right.
Which would almost kill Matt.
Yeah, Matt missing a green source as well as
and a tapped land here, so yikes. Is that he drew the Lord. I believe that's a Lord of Atlantis in Rick's hand.
Right. And I mean that is the strength of the Merfolk deck. It just curves out very well.
Yeah. Well, I guess Matt does have the seal up to kill the Lord should Rick play it. But he's still not in a good spot.
Yeah, if you crack the seal on the Lord, then you animate Mutavault, and all of a sudden now you're well, I guess you would crack the seal in combat, but
and
you're still taking 7 here.
And we've got a follow from chat, West Oreos. Thank you for following the stream. We should be streaming every week now, so we will endeavor to be as consistent as we can.
So Matt does crack the seal on the Lord.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
Atlantis.
I think you have to there.
Well, absolutely. Else it's a super lethal.
Super lethal.
Well, actually, no, it's not lethal. It's this would be a swing for 11.
Right. Okay, so Matt is going to tap 1. Is he gonna dismember? Oh, this feels so bad. Yikes. Yep, dismember your Mutavault. Go to 8 and then take 5. So go to 3.
So I don't know what Matt's
Outs are?
Well, I mean, I don't know what his main deck looks like. I will say, Knight of Souls Betrayal, excellent on this board. But looks like Matt does not.
Just gonna scoop that up.
Yeah, does not have main deck Knight of Souls Betrayal.
I mean, that seems, that does not seem like something that I would consider playing in the main.
Well, I mean, it does a lot of work against a lot of decks, and I'm not just saying that because the card is excellent.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're the Jund player here, so whenever you slam that Knight of Souls Betrayal, you know that the game is essentially just lockout infect or whatever.
Shockingly good. It's against so many decks.
Really, yeah. I mean,
Kitchen Finks looks really silly against the Knight of Souls Betrayal.
For certain. And also they, obviously Knight of Souls Betrayal good against Kitchen Finks, but also,
X-Ling against Infect.
I actually, Infect doesn't play main deck Viridian Corruptor anymore, and some of the time they're not playing main deck Spellskite either.
Well,
so they are playing main deck Spellskite.
Usually they have a Spellskite.
Okay, but when your only way to win the game is to pump a Spellskite to lethal damage, and it's an 0-3, so it gets bolted.
No, it's a -1.
Oh, it's a -1. Oh
3.
my! Wow, you gee.
Let's not forget. We can't go into negative toughness here, but
oh my god, that's disgusting.
But look at going back to this game here.
Yeah.
This is just showcasing the strengths of Merfolk. Like, you just have a lot of creatures that can punish slow draws like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I mean, I think that Fish is always that deck where. It is so close to, on the verge of just being, one of the premier aggro decks. Obviously it struggles with its affinity matchup, but, I feel like, it's, one... I feel like it's, 1 or 2, really strong cards. It's, maybe 1 strong card away from being even crazier than it currently is. Although, I guess, I don't know much about Fish. I feel like the list is pretty tight, though.
List is pretty tight, just because you kind of need that critical mass, right?
Right.
Lords feel a lot worse if you're not pumping things. Then they're just grizzly bears.
Right.
I mean, one of the unique parts about Fish also is just the mana disruption.
Right.
It's just when it's great. It's just
The
absurd.
game is actually just over sometimes when you cast Spreading Seas.
right when you play against Tron, and all of a sudden like now they're looking for another piece on when you start shutting off elements that are, you know.
Yeah. Against Tron, you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go as fast as I possibly can here.
And there's just so many 3-color decks, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a Jeskai player. I know this problem well.
Yeah, like Jun, you know, as a Jun player, there's a lot of times where you're just like sitting there awkwardly with, you know, you're off a double black, maybe you have one green, then all of a sudden like you're just cut off from casting a lot of stuff.
Right. And you know, and that's I think
That's kind of the concession for like the aggressive mana bases that you
Right.
have in Modern, right?
Yeah, and I think that there's been with the rise of Bant Eldrazi, there's been sort of a call to how do we interact with their mana base? Like, you know, how do you interact with a mana base in Modern that can play soul lands and stuff? And you know, Fish does have a way to do that. It's obviously, you know, I think that a lot of the times it might not be like enough disruption, but you can certainly, you know, you can really damage people's draws when you just lock them off of colors.
Well, an important part about Fish though is also you're gonna present an aggressive clock.
Yeah.
Right, because like
It doesn't matter. Like this is. Sorry, go ahead.
in response to Eldrazi, it's not like all of a sudden people were playing 4 Fulminators in the main.
Right.
It's just like that's just not good enough. Whereas like with Fish, you can
Yeah.
Spreading Seas them and all of a sudden attack for, you know, 10 power unblockable.
Right, and that's the thing. You know, we've seen a little bit in previous months. Jeskai Nahiri lists run Spreading Seas in the sideboard, but sometimes they just don't pressure. Like if they have the Spreading Seas and not the Nahiri, like yeah, they shut off the color, but you know, you will eventually draw out of the color stroke.
Yes.
So I think that obviously, you know, Spreading Seas, like a lot of sort of like a lot of mana based disruption, is much better when you can like clock them. And you know, and I'm not sure what Rick's list is like. We did see Wanderwine Hub, so he is at least splashing a little bit of white.
Right.
But I would be interested to see if he's also playing Seas Claim, because I know that not every. Does he have a Seas Claim in hand right now?
I believe that was the Seas claim.
All right. Yeah. So, I guess you know Seas Claim seems excellent against this very greedy mana base from Matt, because we saw he's playing Eldrazi Temple. So, you know that he's playing colorless lands, like a lot of them, like at least, you know, he has at least 4 Eldrazi Temple, and so he could just be having problems with his he could just have problems with the mana base if it gets disrupted by Seas Claim, which you know obviously doesn't cantrip, but when you go all in on the mana denial plan, that's great. Just like goodbye.
Well, also part of the thing is Rick might not know what Matt is on.
That's true.
Because I mean, look at what Matt played. He played Eldrazi Temple, but no Eldrazi.
Right.
He
No mana dorks.
Yeah, he played an Enchantment Doomblade and a Traverse. So Traverse kind of indicates like, okay, you're on some sort of Delirium plan. There's probably in these colors you almost certainly have Grim Flayers, probably Tarmogoyf. But other than that, like, you didn't show much of your hand, and all of a sudden Matt's leading off on a Polluted Delta.
Yeah, I think that Polluted Delta might be like that 9th fetch that you run, because this gets all swamp shocklands.
Sure.
And we're going to see Rick with the turn 1 Aether Vial, classic play from Merfolk. Very, very groan-inducing if you have any sort of card called Mana Leak in your hand, which I very frequently do. Just like, oh, cool, they played this Aether Vial. I'm just gonna sit back and basically have effectively mulliganed.
Right.
Yeah. So see what Matt has come. I see a Tarmogoyf in hand. So this deck is crazy. Eldrazi Temple into Tarmogoyf. Okay, what's happening? Yeah. So Matt is at.
Ooh, and busting out the Tarmogoyf dice here.
Yeah.
Now with the rise of these Delirium decks,
Tarmogoyf gets so big.
Tarmogoyf can get out
Also,
range here.
our Tarmogoyf dice is not currently big enough for this Tarmogoyf.
Not small enough.
Not small enough. Sorry. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not small enough. The Tarmogoyf is just a little baby Tarmogoyf, but it's not a bolt deck, right? So you're fine.
Right. Now, one thing Rick also did see, Matt played Blood Crypt last game.
Yeah.
So it's John Colors with Eldrazi Temple.
Yeah. And there is the Spreading Seas targeting Eldrazi Temple. I think Matt does have a Seas Claim in hand. I think I might have been more in on targeting the Overgrown Tomb, because I think that, or I guess this does turn off colorless, so it does completely turn it off.
You're right. This shuts down the turn 3 Thought
Knot.
Knot Seer.
Turn 3 Thought Knot Seer, as we have seen in many a modern game with Bant Eldrazi in it, quite good.
Quite good.
That is an attack with a 1/2 Tarmogoyf.
But you know, this if you're playing Eldrazi Temple and one of the auto includes would be Thought Knot, right? It's just certainly the best.
He does have Thought Knot. Like I have seen him play it in this, or at least in a different version of this list. But yeah, no. So he's. But I mean, you know, these are 2 Tarmogoyfs. Eventually, they will get huge. Like Merfolk has to answer. They do have Island Walk turned on, obviously. Violon 2 is very good, and there is a Lord in hand. I saw at least one.
Yeah, no, these attacks get a little more dicey now because you know you don't want to trade with an adept, right? That feels terrible.
Right, and I think that you know there's just no cards in the graveyard, right? Like, what's happening? Normally, these Tarmogoyf decks have a way to like make their Tarmogoyf bigger than a 1/2.
Well, and that's the reason why Gorf doesn't just get jammed in a lot of decks, right? Gorf you really want to play as a 4/5.
Is that a Seize Claim?
It is a Seize Claim, and that's going to probably
Take the other temple out?
going to take the other temple. So he doesn't want to cut him off colored sources.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, you know, at this point, right, Matt's played out some green cards. The Tarmogoyfs aren't very big. And, you know, if he were to draw into Thought Knot, he has more Thought Knots in his deck than Tarmogoyfs right now. This keeps him from actually doing anything about the Thought Knot.
Well, also importantly, like, there are so
an
many
attack for
more
2.
colored sources, right? Because all the
Right.
fetch lands are colored sources.
Right, these Eldrazi temples get sort of, you know, they're...
And don't be too hasty with
with
that. Because Matt does have an Abrupt Decay in hand. So if he...
Okay. So there's a Vial from this... Vial's in the Silvergill.
Right, so
We're
Matt
gonna put-
has to play a fetching, Abrupt Decaying the...
Oh, he's just going to Dismember.
Oh, okay, Dismember is fine as well.
Okay, so he's going to take 4 to do so.
Right.
It's 15.
And Matt still has Abrupt Decay Aether Vial available.
So these Tarmogoyfs are going to go from being 1/2s to like, what?
4/5s.
4/5s? Yeah.
Right, because you're going to have...
Creature, instant, artifact, land.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so this is now an attack for 8.
Yes.
Tarmogoyf is a really good magic card.
And
Rick is now on a clock, too.
Right. Specifically against Merfolk, the inclusion of artifacts and enchantments means that
Right.
Tarmogoyfs can just get absurdly out of hand.
And and Rick is going to go to 11, and now we see the problem where, you know, he's not drawn a lot of lands, and the Aether Vial draw has sort of been punished by that Abrupt Decay.
Right.
And he needs to figure this out because he's actually just dead in 2 turns.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if Matt grows the Tarmogoyfs they're 4/5s now, so he would need to put 2 more card types in the graveyard.
So Matt with a kind of a cheeky play here.
Can he cast that Tidebinder?
Yes, so he tapped a Burrow for blue, had Mutavault to bounce a Burrow,
Oh,
played it again,
wow,
and
that
got a
is-
second blue.
That's nutty. Okay.
Yeah. So, kind of cheeky way of getting around the mana
Not having
restrictions.
double blue?
Yeah.
There's a serve for 4.
But if on turn 5 your only board presence is a Tidebinder mage,
Yeah, that doesn't seem great.
it doesn't seem great.
Rick's going to go to 7 here.
Now, with enough lords, you certainly can put the brakes on this, but Rick is just so far behind and only able to deploy 1 threat a turn. Now, if you
Right.
still had the Aether Vial, this would be fine.
This would be fine, yeah.
But without the Aether Vial, and it's very apparent he kept the hand off the back of the Aether Vial, now he's forced to play the ad just to try to dig for land.
He did find one, though, so I think now he'll play his backup Aether Vial. And then... Yep, so there it is. And then he can chump... You know, this is going to be a long, long process of Rick digging himself out from under Matt's Tarmogoyf pressure.
Right. So Matt still has another free attack.
Right.
Uh,
I mean, I feel like if you're Rick, you should maybe just chump it. You have his hand is loaded.
right.
Like that's what what Rick has going for him is that his hand is insane right now.
There is the argument, though, if you didn't chump, now this turn you can potentially play 2 lords, and now all of a sudden there are
Right.
just no attacks. Whereas now, blocking with the Tidebinder is iffy because if there's removal from the lords, now you're losing something that like is actually important. Whereas
Right.
the adept, that just doesn't matter.
That's fair.
Rick may have been playing against around Bolt because Matt did show red.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that would feel really bad.
It feels silly to die to a Bolt when you don't have to, but I think I would have preferred the no block there.
Yeah, go to 3 and then
And now you can stabilize.
yeah, now you can play lords. Just do your merfolk thing. Fish. All right. Oh, another Tidebinder. That's quite good.
Yeah.
Now he's gonna roll the vial up, play 2 lords, and bean him for like 8.
Right.
Jeez.
Now, Matt,
that is ferocious. This game has suddenly turned all the way around, and that's another lord in hand. He's got like 3 lords in hand right now.
Well, I mean, if you're not drawing lands,
You're drawing lords,
you gotta be drawing something.
right? But this is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this could be an attack for 8.
Yeah. Cheyadi, yes, we are in Chicago. We're up on the north side, just a couple blocks off of the Belmont Red Line stop. So if you just take the Red Line north to Belmont, get off and walk west on the south side of the street, you'll eventually find us. And yep, so he's going to vial in a lord there.
And just attack Matt for 6.
For 6. All right, so Matt is going to go to 9. I do think that if Rick runs out double lords next turn, though, like, it is... I think he just kills him.
Right.
Yeah, because he attacked... Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No, he's
interesting.
mega dead.
Yeah, interesting enough. Rick chose not to play something.
Yeah. I'm unsure what he's holding up. Oh, and some stuff. I don't know if that Seal of Doom is going to be good enough.
I mean, it can unlock a Goyf.
This is true, but it's going to get negated. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's holding up negate there. Okay.
And now just Matt's dead on board.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, no, he's dead to the Mutavault.
yeah, animate
Yeah.
Mutavault.
Animate
just dead on
Mutavault
board.
9.
Never mind Aether violating another Lord.
He can play a
Find another
lord, Aether Vial a lord, and
Yeah.
just go crazy.
The-
And there's going to be the handshake. Matt Barbuccio is going to scoop it up with his green-black, light red splash Delirium, losing to Merfolk. Yeah, no, I think, Matt had the pressure for a while, but once the Tidebinder Mage is out of the sideboard for Rick, just completely turning that game around. Dan is going to pop out of the booth for a bit just to see if we can get see if we can get one more match on stream for you guys. We still have about half the round left. But yeah, that matchup, Matt's mana was extremely constricted by the Seize claim and the Spreading Seas, and it just didn't seem like, with the Tarmogoyf's pressuring, it seemed okay. But those 2 draws of Tidebinder by Rick, with Matt not having the ability to deal with them, completely wound up crushing Matt in that game. And so, and that's sometimes what Fish does. You think that you've achieved some sort of board stabilization, and then suddenly you haven't. And that is, yeah. All right. And so we are going to get another match coming up. Who's going to be playing, Dan?
This is gonna be Sam Schultz against
yeah.
Brandon Salgado.
All right. I dig it. All right. So we've got Salgado on the left. Okay.
Right.
So Salgado we saw earlier, right? He's on Infect, correct?
Right, and he's up a game.
Okay, and he's up a game against Sam Schultz, who plays a very unique brew. He plays 4-color Collected Company Spirits.
Yes. When I asked him to come on stream, he was not optimistic about this matchup.
Really?
I believe his exact words were, "But I'm just going to lose."
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully he can put up something of a fight. We do see a Maelstrom Wanderer here. Turn 1 for him off a Seachrome Coast. But yeah, I've played against this Spirits deck a couple times. When he has a Rattle Chains out, he can go EOT Geist. Which is, end of your turn. Oh, that's not. It's Mausoleum Wanderer. Or Mausoleum Wanderer.
Yes.
Maelstrom Wanderer is not exactly playable.
Is it not though? Is it?
Come on, Dan. So we have 1-0 Brandon here.
Hey, Gianni. Welcome to the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
There's definitely a good crowd here every Wednesday. So yeah, we'd be super excited for you to come out.
He has 1 poison already.
Generic-ish. Legality aside, double Cascade. How could that possibly be bad?
Generic-ish is Nick. Yeah, so... Alright, so now that we've got our info all square, Salgado, yep.
So you got a shocking.
Shock to 18. He is going to attack with an Inkmoth Nexus here. In response, Sam looks like he's going to fetch, falling to 19.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the nice parts about the Spirits deck is a lot of things have flash.
Yeah. Oh, so many things have flash. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, and he is going to shock here. He does get the Water Gift. So this is the Black Splash. Sam plays it basically exclusively for the Lingering Souls flashback. But Lingering Souls and Drog Skull Captain are nuts. Like,
yeah,
you make so many bodies and then they're all hexproof. And also, yeah, it's ridiculous. So I think, I don't know. I could see this is probably a Rattle Chains ? Yeah, it's a Rattle Chains.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so Rattle Chains on the stack. Brandon thinking about a response here. Okay, so he's going to pay 2 life, fall to 16 to Muta the...
No, this is excellent sequencing from Brandon, because by responding to him, Mausoleum Wanderer is still a 1/1. Which means that he can't... If he sacks it, Brandon still has access to pay for it.
Right, good point. And so I think Sam is just going to take that hit, yep. So he's going to go up to 3 poison. There was a chip shot... 4, you're right, yeah. There was a chip shot attack. Yeah, so he's on 4 poison now. But yeah, this is, this Spirits deck, obviously, ooh, that's quite good here.
Yeah.
What do you...
Quasali Pride Mage, now threatening to blow up.
The Inkmoth Nexus.
And with the Mausoleum Wanderer, cards that are normally undercosted, like Apostle's Blessing, all of a sudden, that can just be full price.
Right. Yeah, no, so Qasali Pride Mage, really unique ability, just sack it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. It also has an instance of Exalted on it. Salgado going to 14 here to shock. But yeah, the instance of Exalted, obviously giving it attacks as a 3/3. And having, main deck playable artifact and enchantment hate on a body that you can get off of Collected Company is obviously very, very strong.
Right.
This attack, though, honestly, this would scare me so much, because this could just be dead.
Right. Well, so one thing that Sam could have done is not attack with the Rattle Chains,
right,
which gives him a free block. Because if Brandon is willing to trade his only Infector against for a Rattle Chains, that's fine.
Right.
Right. Because Brandon clearly has not drawn a Glistener Elf or Blind Agent and kept his hand on the back of that ink bottle.
Yeah. So Brandon here is gonna mute it at 12. But I'm not sure it's gonna. I think this Inkmoth is now a 3-power threat, threatening to take Sam to 7, and
7 is not 10 though.
There is a Become Immense in hand for Brandon. I think I might also see a Dispel.
Right.
So I think Sam is just gonna take the hit. Yeah.
Right, but keep in mind.
Oh, and he's gonna post combat attempt to blow it up. That'll get Vines. Vines of the Vastwood preventing the targeting there. So Sam at 7 poison.
Okay. Sam's getting close to
just dead.
Well, at the point where he really needs to leave back
blockers. Yeah, there are 2 Geists of Saint Traft in hand for Sam right now. 2 Geists of Saint Traft and another Mausoleum Wanderer. I think he's gonna just run out the Wanderer here. This will trigger his other Wanderer, which will give him which will give him it another point of power, so it can get in for more damage, because Brandon has there is somewhat of a clock on board. Brandon doesn't have a second Infector.
This also makes it much more difficult to go off on something. Having to pay potentially 2 more means that a lot of your stuff can just get countered.
Yeah, and Sam gonna fetch here to 16.
Right. If Sam has any sort of flash creature, all of a sudden, Mausoleum Wanderer being a 2/2, it's insane.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I think I see what Sam's trying to do here. That Geist has flash. Oh, but he's gonna trigger the Wanderers with it. Okay, so my thought on this play is that I would have preferred playing the Geist
on your opponent's turn.
On your opponent's turn, just because it makes your Mausoleum Wanderer so much better.
Right.
But he has another Geist in hand. But yeah, so I think Brandon is looking down almost dead. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I mean
7.
There are some lines that can get around this. Distortion Strike.
Right, Distortion Strike would be crucial here if you drew it. I think I see a Dispel.
But I mean, even keep in mind, Apostle's Blessing is fine. Just to
I mean,
not as a pro protection spell, but just as a way to get through damage.
Right, yeah, no, just Apostle's Blessing for Pro Blue. Wow, you did it.
Right.
And okay, so there is a Glistener Elf.
All right, Brandon finally finding
Another Infector.
right.
He's in trouble here, actually. This Geist, like...
This is a lot of damage.
I actually think this attack is lethal. If he doesn't block. This
so
is... Oh, wait, they're only 1 power. So it's 6 from the Geist, 2 from the Rattle Chains, 2 from the Wanderers. No. This is... Brandon's at 10. This is a potentially lethal attack.
Yeah, right. So what Sam can do is just attack with everyone.
Force Brandon to block.
Force Brandon to block and just flash in the second Geist.
Right, that doesn't... I mean...
If the Geist gets blocked.
Right, but I think the problem is... Okay, so actually, this is key. He has a Bird of Paradise, right? I don't actually know if he has access to green mana. But if he has access to green, he can play the Bird as a blocker for Inkmoth. He can swing with everything, and then he's fine. But he needs a flying blocker at the very least.
Yes, absolutely.
Because... well, actually, he might want 2 blockers.
Sam can also choose to slow play this.
I mean, I actually like this. I like this line a lot more. You can, Brandon, I think, actually... Okay, so Brandon is going to animate Inkmoth to block.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. So what do you think Brandon might have in his hand? He's going to block the Angel with this.
He's just trying to save damage.
Yeah, so...
If this is blocks, and I'm Sam, I'm quite happy about this.
Yeah, because you're going to get in for 4, put Brandon to 6, get him closer to dead. And Brandon loses his Inkmoth, which is definitely his best creature.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little less good in this matchup just because...
It gets blocked.
Yeah, like, in a lot of matchups, like, having flying is just, like, might as well read unblockable.
Right.
But in this
yeah.
case, it's just fine.
Brandon going to go to 6 here? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now... There are certainly there's a
Sam
sequence
does play
of
the Bird.
There's a sequence of draws that Brandon could have that could get him.
No, he's gonna scoop it up. He did not find the Distortion Strike. But yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah, and just showing you the power of just having flyers.
Yeah.
In this format.
No, I think that obviously like it's a very strong ability, but you're just like, oh wow, this is actually insane now. Blocking Inkmoth Nexus and forcing Infect to waste their pump spells feels really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Now, this being game 2, Brandon may have... Brandon's keep was certainly not excellent.
Sure.
But it may have just been good enough just to be acceptable.
Yeah, and I think, I think we all sort of tend to do do that thing where we... if you're up a game, your keeps game 2, they might be a little bit riskier. Mm-hmm. Just because... Like, you can get away with it sometimes. So, Chayati, today we have 25?
25 or so?
Yeah, 25 or so people in the shop. It's normally about that big, maybe a little bit bigger.
The numbers, this is certainly on the lower end of it.
Yeah.
We've had as much as like 45 on some weeks, which is kind of absurd for a weeknight tournament. But yeah, the numbers are pretty much at least 25.
Yeah, oh, most certainly. And are they... Wait, was Sam up a game or was Brandon up a game? Because they're leaving the table.
Perhaps Sam was up a game. He was very pessimistic about this matchup, but it looks like he might have gotten there.
Okay.
We'll double check to see if we can bring you another match, if that's the case.
Yeah. So, yeah, it does look like Sam Schultz was able to pull that off, despite him sort of moaning about it being a bad matchup. Like, come on, Sam. Yeah, it appears the match is over. We were told that Sam was up a game, but if that's not the case, that's fine. We will get another match if we can. Just get more modern action through here. Yeah, Inkmoth Nexus, as we were talking about, and with the Infect deck, like, very, very strong. But flying blockers against Infect are, you never know. Generic-ish. No? Okay. We're gonna cut back to the booth here. So we've got a request in chat for blue white red next round. There is a blue white player in the room.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how he's doing and see if he's willing to come into.
And come on stream. Chiati, blue white red is probably actually bad. But there's the blue or red player who plays here is like somewhat good actually. You know, he did
Yeah.
he 11 for it at Indy. He did very well. I think he cashed Charlotte. So you know he's pretty good at the deck, but yeah.
One could describe it as there's somewhat of a cabal of
Mm-hmm.
blue, white, red players. It perhaps is overrepresented
Yeah.
at the shop compared
Yeah.
to what you would see at other metas. But I mean, it is
It's a
fun
fine
thing.
deck. Weak star for Tron next round. I actually don't know if we have a Tron player in the room. Is Lauerman on Tron still?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I think James is still here.
Okay, so yeah, if he, well, so let's see how he did in his round. We can certainly look at the possibility of getting him on.
Yeah, and if there are any other requests, we do have 2 more rounds. So if there's anything that somebody would like to see in particular, there's a fairly varied.
There's a varied meta out there.
Right.
There's some of the stuff is a little bit sillier. There's like I know Paul Green is running like a scape shift deck, but weird scape shift with like
Okay.
hunt masters and stuff. Like
I think the
don't know
only
what's
deck
happening
that is like truly underrepresented
Mm-hmm.
at the shop is Affinity.
yeah, I actually think we have Affinity show up like once every maybe month, right?
Right. But compared to what you would see at like a larger
yeah.
tournament, it just. I mean, to play it on a weekly basis is perhaps not the most fun, which
Sure.
might be a reason why you don't see as much of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, we get pretty much a even cross section of
Yeah.
the field.
I would also say that, you know, just like traditional GBX decks, like, you know, Jund and whatnot are not necessarily, they're not necessarily as well represented as they are in the meta. And also, I don't think anyone plays Dredge here, but
I mean,
there's been a couple Dredge players.
Yeah,
Okay.
there have been a couple Dredge in the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks. So
Speaking of Dredge, there's a new card that came out that's coming out in Kaladesh. Cathartic Reunion and search. Okay, so Cathartic Reunion is not on Magic Cards info yet. Let's go to Gather and see if we can pull this card up. But basically, this card seems like an incredibly strong Dredge enabler that Wizards has printed. You know, to our bane or not, I think that this card is going to wind up being pretty good.
yeah, I can see this card being very good in a lot of decks.
Yeah.
The ability to go super tormenting voice is
Well, just like you can pitch 2 enablers, so you're at least going to Dredge twice.
right. But the scary part for this though is like for non-dredge decks, right? Like it got talked about for like Glorious Vengeance and whatnot. But if this gets remanded,
Right.
you're in a world of hurt.
I think Goryo's Vengeance actually picked up a very strong option in Collective Brutality.
Yes.
I think that it's not as risky because when you cast Collective Brutality, like you're discarding cards, but the effects of your discard are not just drawing more cards.
Right.
So it's
And-
a little bit stronger of an enabler.
And for Collective Brutality, you have the 2 excellent modes are, I mean, you can kill birds.
You can also duress them.
Well,
Well, it's like
not quite
sort of duress. So actually the list that got second at SCG Orlando was playing 2 Collective Brutality in the main. I've seen it main decked in Abzan too.
And it's playable in Jund as well.
Yeah. I think, just because of the absurd busted synergy with Lingering Souls, it's probably a little bit stronger in Abzan, but having these effects is really strong. So I have seen against Burn, turn 2, Collective Brutality, escalate twice, kill your Goblin Guide, drain your life, and take your Atarka's command.
Yeah, it's quite powerful in that regard.
And it's still a 3 for 3, but you're probably trading cards that you don't need for effects that are just insane.
Right. And I've killed players with just the Drain 2.
Have you really?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
it's not unheard of.
That's only slightly worse than the Sign in Blood you for 2.
Hey. Sign in Blood you for 2 feels bad if all of a sudden they gang lives.
Helix.
This is fine.
Thanks,
This
man.
is fine.
Yeah. No, it's just, I think, Collective Brutality is very, it's very versatile, and so it's, clearly main deckable. Wizards going deep and printing some good Escalate cards.
Right. The Escalate mechanic is really quite interesting, especially for Escalates that aren't just paying additional mana.
Right.
The flexibility is just,
It's insane.
it gives you a lot of options.
Yeah. And also, so now on screen we're looking at Blessed Alliance, which is the other card that we've the other card that the other Escalate card that's seeing like some degree of modern play. It has you gain life, you can make people sack attacking creatures. Very, very strong in Bant Eldrazi. I've been trying it out in Blue, White, Red, and I've actually been really impressed with it so far. Gaining life is good, and having target opponents sack an attacking creature, especially if they're hitting you with like one Tarmogoyf or something, it's just a 5th path effect basically.
Sure. It's not powerful of enough of an effect for you to run like Celestial Flare or something like that.
Well, I think it's versatile.
Right, but giving you additional modes, untapping like a Restoration Angel, or something like that.
Untapping blockers and gaining life, like I think obviously it's weaker than Collective Brutality. It's a reactive card. It's not proactive. I actually lost a game to an Inquisition of Kozilek when the guy had Tarmogoyf because he was able to Inquisition my Blessed Alliance before he attacked with Tarmogoyf. So you have to sit back and wait for your opponent to do stuff. But I mean, it's showing up in Eldrazi sideboards. Like clearly, there's something to this card. Gaining incidental life gain is always better than it looks.
Yes.
Like. Sometimes just you gain 4 life against Burn. Congrats, you win the game because they have to draw 2 more cards and you kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. Anytime life gain is just staple onto something, it adds the couple extra points of power that can push a card over the edge.
Yeah. Gamer Champ, isn't Collective Brutality the only Escalate that doesn't require you to pay mana? That's a really good question, actually.
No, there are a couple of other Escalates. There's a white one that escalates from tapping additional creatures.
Oh, you're right, yeah. But I'm not sure how playable those are in Modern, necessarily.
Right. It's the white one is getting a lot of hype for potentially being playable in Standard.
Do you remember what it's called?
Not off the top of my head. Chat, can you help us out there?
Just gonna.
But it functions similarly to Dramoka's command.
Oh sure. Oh yes. It's like Anthem your creatures. This one, Collective Effort.
Right.
Yeah. So destroy target enchantment. Destroy a big creature. And glory and Anthem your team.
Right. Put a 1/1 on each creature you control is extremely powerful in Standard.
Right.
Depending on how big the boards get. With Wraths not really being available until 5.
Yeah.
With Languish rotating out, your boards could develop quite big, quite wide. As we saw with
what is so actually that's something we can probably do in a future break, but we should definitely talk about upcoming Standard and how Kaladesh is going to affect everything with what's leaving and what's coming in.
Yeah, there's interesting additions to the Modern format as well coming from Kaladesh that potential shakers. Modern obviously has a lot of cards that are fairly streamlined, but
for
every
sure.
set that comes along there's
always
a
one or
couple
two
movers and shakers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna go to intermission here for about 5 minutes and then throw it back for the beginning of round 3. Thanks for staying with us, guys. Fairly streamlined, but
she's tamed. I know the reason she's so far away.
All right, and we are back here at MTG Card Market Wednesday Night Modern, going into round 3 of 4. Dan is just currently out there just checking on the progress of all the matches that are happening. But, yeah, so we've decided, you know, Kaladesh is coming, right? There's obviously some amazing cards to talk about. The first one is probably, you know, when it was released, everyone sort of went nuts. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. And once Dan gets back, we can more thoroughly evaluate this card because he's a Jund player. But some people have talked about this card, potentially being modern playable. Chandra Pyromaster is sometimes, or was sometimes, I haven't seen it in a long time, played in Jund, and just to like ping creatures, push damage, and draw cards with the 0. But Chandra Torture of Defiance could fill that slot. The plus instead of the 0 draws a card, which is most of the time is insane. One restriction is that you can't play lands off of the plus. How are we doing out there?
There's one match remaining, and it's in turns.
Okay.
And we should be getting round 3 started shortly here.
Cool. Yeah, so I was just, sort of talking a little bit about Chandra. You're the Jund player here. What do you think?
This harkens back a lot to... so Jund has always had a flex spot at 4, or a couple of flex spots. And over time, that spot has kind of evolved with what you play there. Originally, it was like, Hunt Olivia. Then there was Huntmaster for a while. Chandra saw some play. And now the new hotness is Kalidas, right?
Right, of course.
So there's always a couple spots where you can kind of flex into whatever you want.
Right.
Some people choose to, play Liliana. Some, the 5th Liliana. So you have a lot of options.
Right.
Now with Grand Flare, sometimes, that kind of takes the extra spot. But this could slot well. I mean, it looks very, very similar to the old Chandra.
Right.
With the upside, the fact that you can play it as a Flame Slash is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I think that people, on boards in Modern where you only have, one attacking creature, or, there's a couple attacking creatures, but you have blockers, playing this, minusing as a Flame Slash, just, get that out of here, and then, you're in a Jund. They have a Kalidas and you have a Tarmogoyf, and you play your Chandra minus on their Kalidas. But you still, they have to deal with your Chandra, right?
Right. Chandra's still there.
They can't just ignore the fact that now they're getting shocked. Also, I've seen some people saying Chandra can control planeswalkers really well. The plus keeps Nahiri from upticking net loyalty ever, assuming you keep burning.
Right. I mean, doing 2, that's real damage.
Yeah, that's a clock.
Yeah, the old Chandra just pinging something for 1. It's it never really clocks someone. This, if you have a goal, if you hit them a couple times with the modern mana base, it's very likely that this could be, if they're at 8, this is a 4-turn clock.
Yeah. And do you see? So obviously the second plus ability, having 4 abilities, sort of sent people made people go crazy. But do you think? I mean, the second plus ability is obviously very different. What are some potential applications you see for that going forward?
I mean, the only one that realistically is going to happen is a Raging Ravine double activation.
So
it doesn't come up often because
you don't have the mana.
Jund usually don't get 9 lands in play.
Right.
But when you do get 9 lands in play, you can activate Raging Ravine twice, and then all of a sudden you get 2 counters per attack.
Oh, that's interesting. You had 2 instances of that ability.
You get 2 instances of that ability.
That's cool.
Which is a corner case that a lot of people forget. It's available.
Yeah.
But that means that adding 2 makes that a possibility. Or also, you can attack with 2 Raging Ravines if you have that.
Right. Or you can animate your Raging Ravine, and then you'll have more mana
and do stuff
to play Tarmogoyf follow up or whatever.
Sure.
Do you see a use for this in some of the ramp decks like Scapeshift, or do you think Scapeshift is just going to keep playing through the Breach Primeval Titan and not caring?
Scapeshift might be a little too. There might be not enough spots for something like this.
Yeah.
It's pretty. The list is pretty tight.
Right.
And the fact that you can't get stuff like. The fact that Scapeshift is much less Scapeshift focused now, and now much more Primeval Titan focused, means that a ramp ability is not just
That's fair.
just not that useful. Also, what does +2 mana matter if you still need 7 land in play? Right?
For sure. We're gonna jump to the play overlay real quick, see what's happening here. Awesome. So we are gonna catch the start of this. So this is Vince Adenolfi, who is currently 1-1 up against
Ned
Kaida Yip. Okay.
Yep. Now Ned.
Do you know what Ned's playing?
I know that Ned mentioned what he was playing,
but you don't
I
remember
promptly
what
forgot.
Okay.
But it does look like a deck with Path to Exile.
Okay, so maybe Abzan? I saw Verdant Catacombs. And so Ned is going to take 1 damage while we continue to update the overlay here. He's going to take 1 damage. These players are both 1 and 1, it looks like, from their points. So we'll... Yep. 0 this.
So, Ned with...
Okay, so he's got Nakaddles in there.
Right, so this is not going to be your
Not Abzan.
Abzan grindfest here.
This is aggressive. Alright, yeah, so this is, it looks like Naya something, right?
Yeah, Naya.
Um,
Game Chamber actually has a kind of interesting question that we'll get to a little later. What do you think the best artifact to come out of the set is?
we should definitely think about that. We'll probably have to think in terms of modern. We can also think about playing what will be played in standard though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. In the meantime, though,
this is probably Zoo, right? Because he's got a green, he's got like a non-red source, so it's not just burn. He's got Goyce in there.
there's also bolts in there. So
Okay, this is Zoo. Whoa, this is not Naya Zoo.
This is not. Yeah.
This is 4-color Zoo.
Could be 4 colors. Yeah, there's definitely Goyf in there.
Yeah, I saw the Goyf, so I am unsure what's currently happening with this deck, but this looks crazy.
Yeah, but
So he fetched again, so he's going to be at 16. And Vince is going to go to 19, but also got beamed for 3, so Vince also at 16 then?
yeah, looks correct.
All right. Yeah, and that Wild Nakaddle, obviously, very powerful. 3/3 for 1 mana. You just have to have the right lands in play. Vince, second land, Ghost Quarter. Ideally, he plays Wall of... Okay, the Wall of Omens is there.
Right.
So that's good.
Ned unfortunately drew the cattle a turn too late here.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a turn too late is still good.
The second Nakaddle?
Yeah.
Oh, what does that do? I do not know that card, but Vince is going to go to 13 here, and as Ned goes to 14 after playing that Watery Grave untapped. So, okay, I lied. This is 5-color Zoo. I think there might be Tribal Flames in his deck.
I mean, that is certainly a good reason to play 4 color, right?
He's on 5 now. He's
5
got a
color,
Watery
5,
Grave.
right. Ned attacking for 6, and Vincent has no response to this.
No response. Vince, what did you keep, man? I think he's got a... Okay, so he is going to cast Mana Leak on the front half of a Lingering Souls. I have no idea what's going on in Ned's deck right now.
Just aggressive cards. Just good cards.
Yeah. Vince goes to 7.
Yeah.
This is something. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen this deck before. I think Vince has a Resto in hand, and I also saw a Cryptic command earlier. But he doesn't have Cryptic unless he plays a blue source, so he does not currently have Cryptic up.
I mean, with Ghost Quarter, he kind of has Cryptic mana.
That feels so bad though. Like, I know you can Ghost Quarter yourself, but that's not a great feeling.
You do what you gotta do.
I understand that, but yeah, I think Vince is trying to play ambush with the Resto rather than rather than Cryptic.
Right, and Ned drew a Grimflare.
Okay, that seems good.
Which makes sense.
Once you fix your draws and stuff, right?
Right.
So Vince here is going to take a minimum of 3, and Ned also just has a path. So that's going to go goodbye. Vince is going to go to 1.
Yeah. One's not 0, but...
1's not 0, but it's sure close.
Yeah.
I think is what we can agree on here. Wow. One thing is that Ned does not have access to Grimflare, but he does have access to the Flashback of Lingering Souls, which is an incredibly annoying card for a deck like Vince to deal with. Vince has a lot of 1-for-1 removal. He's probably going to have to Fog with a Cryptic here, which is not ideal. If that Resto had lived, though, Vince does have a Kiki Jiki in hand, so this could have turned around very, very quickly if that had lived. Yeah. So one thing that actually I'm friends with Vince, and he was telling me earlier that he's been playing against a lot of like 5-color Tribal Flame Zoo on Moto recently, but he's like, I feel like no one ever plays that deck in like Modern, and now we're watching him get attacked by at least 5 color zoo. I don't know. I don't know if there's tribal flames, but like one can hope, right?
So Ned is in an interesting situation here of like, do you play into a Supreme Verdict even more?
I think that Ned has no way of knowing this, but I am 99% sure Vince does not have a main deck Supreme Verdict.
Because I mean that card makes a lot of sense in the control. From what Ned has seen, if you're running cryptic commands, it seems like a deck that would run Supreme Verdict.
I agree. Now the problem here is that Vince is just sort of dead. He doesn't have another cryptic, and I don't think I saw the Snapcaster that would enable him to tap stuff down.
So what Vincent does have
Okay.
is he does have Electrolyze who can draw into the Lightning Helix.
Ooh, he doesn't play main deck Helix either.
These all seem like a lot of cards that you should play.
I mean, I don't disagree with that, with playing main deck Lightning Helix, but Vince really does like his Electrolyzes. And okay, so he's gonna go 1/1 to the Nacatls draw, and yeah, that's
probably
gonna
scoop.
be
Okay.
the game. Whew. Wow, that was brutal. Ned just with that, this is one of those times when Electrolyze, looks really silly because those Nacatls are 3/3s, right?
Well, and that's always one of the problems with playing Electrolyze. It feels great when you can play with value, but when you don't,
Yeah.
it just feels like in this situation. Think how much better a Lightning Helix would have been.
Oh yeah, no, he kills a Nacatl, he gains some life, like he
just buys the
definitely
entire turn.
he gets the game back on track for him.
Right. No, obviously Vincent flooded out there a little. I think his remaining
Yeah.
hands was like a Kiki and like 4 more lands.
Yeah, but
it's one of the dangers you run into if you play if you get a little too greedy with your Electrolyzes.
right, I think that. Well, I mean, the problem is that he just didn't have. He was lacking 3 damage removal. Like it seemed just his draw was a little bit soft to 3 toughness creatures.
Right.
And I mean, we didn't see much of Ned's deck, but like I have no idea what that removal spell he played on the wall was, for example.
It was 2 mana at deal at least 4.
Oh, so it's probably actually just Tribal Flames, right?
That could have actually just been Tribal Flames, like an old art of Tribal Flames.
Yeah. That's interesting. I will.
Gamers Champ, he does have, at least from when I have played against him,
He's playing
has
one
had-
main deck Rev.
Right.
Shayadi, as someone who has played Sphinx's Rev in Modern, it's basically like the most generic way to just win a game.
Yes.
Like, you just draw a billion cards and then you kill them.
Also, gain a billion life. It's an excellent way of closing out a game.
Right,
but,
and it puts you completely out of reach for a lot of decks. I think that had to have been Tribal Flames.
Tribal Flames would have made sense.
Yeah. Okay.
It might have been just a different art.
Right.
An older art version.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there are Tribal Flames going... Okay, yeah, this was the art right here. There are Tribal Flames going back as old as Invasion.
A little more difficult to turn it on back then, though. When you're actually trying to do it off of normal basics.
Yeah, that seems very challenging. I think that, obviously, Fetchline Shocklands make that interaction infinitely better.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so as we go to game 2, Vince is definitely going to bring in sweepers, Supreme Verdict, Anger the Gods, that sort of thing. Engineered explosives. I was talking to him about his sideboard earlier tonight, and he was like, he was like, well, I guess I'll like maybe cut this, and I was like, you can't cut that ever. No, sorry. So he has sweeper effects available to him, and we'll see, if he draws more lightning bolts, what'll happen. Chayadi, Rev might be the worst card in Modern. I don't know if Rev is the worst card in Modern. It certainly doesn't feel great sometimes. I'll tell you that much. When you're just like, oh.
I will say, I've cast a lot of Revs for 1. Just like 4 mana cycle game 1.
I mean, I think that once you start revving for 3 or more, it's fine. But you have to get there. Although, and I think the other thing is like, I'm not attempting to rev for 9 every game that I have it. Like, I just want to rev for, like, Modern is such a 1-for-1 format that, like, you trade 1-for-1 with someone and then suddenly you break symmetry just by 3. And suddenly you are
huge.
So far ahead.
It's just you can draw into, like, because, I mean, if you're playing Rev in a deck, that deck usually has cards like Snapcaster, Cryptics, you have a lot of value cards. So all of a sudden you draw, like, 3 extra. Turns into draw, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, most certainly. And I think that, like, just the ability to... It's like, there's a lot of haymakers that Blue, White, Red can play that are good against different decks. And actually, we're going to see your Vince taking Mulligan to 6. we can play blue red can play Elspeth to like beat up on green black X, or blue red used to play Keranos, but then like Nahiri can exile Keranos now, so that's like really bad. Don't play Keranos right now, guys, especially if you're gonna play Nahiri.
But you can Nahiri all out a Keranos.
Okay, the next time someone Nahiri ults out a Keranos, I'll tell you. I have exiled the Keranos with Nahiri before I did a GP Indy. I'm not sure that the guy who cast it read the card. He's like, cast Keranos. And he's like, okay, yeah, that resolves. And suddenly...
with the Nahiri on board?
I had my Nahiri on board, yeah. No, it was a little bit questionable, but like, it's possible that he just didn't read Nahiri. Which,
it's an interaction that does not come up very often. It's
and also
very easy to forget.
Nahiri exiles, so Keranos, like, normally you play it and you're like, wow, there's like a...
There's no way to get rid of this.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But yeah, no. So going back to the Haymakers discussion, so there's like Keranos, there's Elspeth, there's all this stuff, but Sphinx's Rev is just generically good against more decks than those. Like Sphinx's Rev is definitely better than like say Elspeth against Affinity, for example.
Yes.
Where I just want to draw removal. But yeah. So. Vince gonna have to ship it again. This is not great for the blue or red deck that relies on 1-for-1ing your opponent to already start down 2 cards and he's on the play. He's gonna have to have some very strong draw steps to sort of get out of this with.
And certainly this is a deck that can draw out of it, especially if Ned kept a loose hand. Often with these aggressive hands, sometimes you keep on 1 lander, sometimes you're 2 lands. If you're trying to hit 5 colors. Doesn't get there. Yeah,
and we definitely talked earlier too about that. That happening. Game 2, you're up a game, you keep a sketchy hand, then you lose.
Right. But yeah, Vincent, not in great shape here. Also, the nature of playing a 3-color deck with cards also like Ghost Quarter and Cryptic Command.
Seeing Ghost Quarter in my Cryptic hands gives me nightmares.
Right. It's
sometimes there's 2 Ghost Quarters and then you just mulligan now, so it's easy.
Right, and also some of your lands don't come into. Some of your land draws are like if you draw multiple Colonnades and Sulphur Falls.
Okay, Colonnade Sulphur Falls might be the worst hand that this deck can just start on.
Right, it just feels pretty terrible. And I mean,
Vince keeps his, he's kept here, and no turn 1 play from Ned, so no Nacatl this time, which Vince has to be happy about, I think.
Absolutely.
When Ned was looking through his deck, it does go all the way up to Siege Rhino though, which I think is hilarious.
So perhaps it's not quite as aggressive as it indicated in Game 1.
I think what happens is like these Tribal Flames deck will play Rhino because A, they can cast it, and B, it gives them stabilization sometimes.
No, absolutely, and it's also it's a free Helix.
And also like when you're Tribal Flames, like what exactly do you do against a? They're both at 19 here. What exactly do you do when you play like Burn? Like that seems quite hard.
I mean, unfortunately, when you play a 4 or 5 color deck, fetching for basics is not
kind of out of the question.
Right, it's not often an option you have. But you can play like more of the Haymaker or life gains. You can play. Ned has Goyfs, so you can play Feed the Clan, which is always excellent. For sure.
Chayati, as to your question, the winner of the 1K PPTQ will receive $400. It's 400, 200, 100, 100, 50. Yeah. So, 50 for 4 through 8. And so there's going to be a Grimflayer for Ned. Vince bolting it off of his Sacred Foundry and then going to fetch another untapped land here. Definitely a little bit of a slower start for Ned, and I think that this, Vince is certainly not out of the woods, but he is,
he's not immediately dead.
He's not immediately just dead to double Nacatl draw. Holy moly.
This is one of my...
He did miss a land drop, though, but I think he has a mana leak in hand, so it's possible that he can recover by leaking whatever Ned plays next.
Which might be an Inquisition.
Oh,
which you may...
He's got a Path in hand, he's got a Rest in Peace, he's got a leak. I think that if you're gonna... I feel like you leak and just Path whatever comes next. Okay.
Well, if you allow him to Inquisition, this means you leave up leak.
That's true.
Whatever you tried to.
That's a good point, actually. The double, I didn't see the second leak. I think that in that situation, I'd be like, that's fine.
Right.
Like you snap off. Sure, you can Inquisition. Notably, Vince board and rest in peace, and Ned obviously thinks that's a big enough problem that he's gonna just take it right out.
Well, Ned does have Goyfs in his.
He has Goyfs and Grimflayer and Lingering Souls.
Right.
So, I mean, I understand why Ned took it. I guess he does have more graveyard synergy than I initially realized.
Right.
And it's looking like there's gonna be a fetch here. No, maybe not. Vince will draw and pass it back.
With Ned knowing that Vince has double mana leak, it makes it a lot more difficult to play in the things. Ned is getting into territory where he can just pay for mana leak for a Nikado.
I mean, that's true. I do think though that anything bigger than a Nikado, right? Like this is one of the things that he can just run stuff into mana leak, but like if I see like a Tribal Flames in hand, for example, like. Okay, so there's another Grimflayer. He might have a third Grimflayer, actually. I think on the close side of his hand, that's another Flare. But these just get, Vince does have essentially 3 removal spells, assuming Ned wants to try to run into them. There's 3 mana. Okay, Lingering Souls is quite good.
Lingering Souls is excellent against this stuff.
And Vince will leak the front half. I think that's, a completely respectable play. He'll just put a Tarn into play off the top. No one is asking whether or not Vince has lands in hand, like... Of course, he's going to play that third land. Ned going to go to 17.
So this game really demonstrates why Grimflayer it's very difficult to just jam it in the deck because you really can't play Grimflayer as a 2/2. It's so mediocre as a 2/2, and a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is sometimes to turn on Delirium.
Right, you need land, like obviously land.
You're going to have land. But creature is not necessarily easy to get into your graveyard when you want to play Grimflayer.
I don't know what instance Ned plays. Like, we saw the path, obviously, but, like, I don't know if there's another... I don't know if he has other instance, because right now he's on 3. Here comes the Flashback Souls. If I were Vince, I would leak this for Oh, really? Okay. I guess he, maybe stops whatever the follow-up play is with the mana leak, but...
Ooh, and Ned, perhaps trying to bait out the mana leak. I did have a third land in hand, a fifth land in hand to actually pay for the leak. So Ned certainly trying to bait out the mana leak. Did not get that.
I think he's trying to resolve something else. But yeah, so if we look at Ned's graveyard, he has 3. He's 3/4 of the way to turning on Delirium, right? Like he needs an instant. He has the IOK and the Flare and the lands.
Yes.
At this point, like you would love to be able to play your 2-drop or something, but. It's very, you can't play it into a Bolt deck, right?
Right.
Like, you lose your threat, and then...
Absolutely, especially now that...
I think that's a Goyf in hand for Ned? Yeah, okay.
Goyf, amusingly going to be very, very good next turn, because there's enchantment in the graveyard.
Oh, from the recipes.
Right.
I think, though, Vince does have a path in hand. I think you don't even wait.
Yeah, well, Ned's just under no pressure right now. He can just chip in for 2, potentially play the Grimflayer with ability to pay for mana leak.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I know that Vince is good enough at Blue Red to not just like force you to pay for leak as a tempo play unless he's like actively attacking you.
Right.
So I think that it's one of these weird situations where like Vince is obviously not in a good spot. Like, holy moly, he's on 3 lands, and it's like, and Ned has 5, and has missed a land drop.
But I mean, then again, like Ned's not drawing that much gas, right?
He does have Lingering Souls tokens, though. That is a clock.
It's a clock, but when your opponent is just stockpiling,
yeah. As soon as Vince draws lands, like ruh-roh.
Yeah.
So what's more important to Ned here? So he's gonna play the Flare, and not gonna go for that mana leak,
Right. So the problem here with Flare is that it plays really hard into Snapcaster because there's a Snapcaster bolt.
Yeah, and that's like an easy I'm gonna make my 2/1 happen.
Right.
But Vince doesn't have Snapcaster, so he's a sad Vince.
Ned can also ambush Vincent with Path of Spirit token add instant.
Ooh, that's super good actually.
Right. It's not ideal because that will get mana leaked, but next turn this Grimflayer is effectively a 4/4. Like you don't have to turn it on.
Yeah.
You're under no incentive really to turn it on because the 2 points is not really gonna alter the clock that much. But now once Grimflayer gets a hit in and you can like just
start pondering basically.
Right. Or you can just like legitimately turn on the Delirium.
Vince is going to path this flare
And
now.
will Ned? Okay, so it looks like Ned chose not to go for the path play.
Well, but the path on his own flare wouldn't have...
Path on the spirit
But
token.
but it wouldn't have mattered, though, right? Like, he's...
Excuse me, that was the path to exile.
That was
on
on
the
a bolt,
bolt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Vince going to go to 13 here from the Souls. Notably, Ned did not search out a basic. I think he's got his only basic Forest. Here's a Tarmogoyf. And again, Vince going to try to make him pay for the leak. But, it taps him all the way out, so it, removes any instant speed trickery, but this Goyf is big. Vince needs to would like to... Oh, okay, that seems fine.
Yeah, and there's a Wrath of God, so...
That completely clears everything. Ned... See, the problem is, Ned has, a path in hand and stuff.
2 paths in hand.
Yeah, I don't know what his creatures are anymore. He's got Tribal Flames, obviously, but,
No, Ned's hand is currently completely dead.
Yeah.
So,
This is one of the... Oh, wait, no, it's not. He's got another flare.
There's another flare. Alright.
He, again, though, no instant. This is a 2-2.
Yes.
Which, again, Vince might have problems against a 2-2, especially if it starts, drawing cards or, doing spooky things with cards for Ned. Ned gonna fetch down to 15 here, but this game has gone on for a long time, and they're just, sort of... This is probably the most patient one that I've ever seen. Ned's just not drawing into aggressive threats, right?
Right, but for all intents and purposes, Vincent has almost stabilized his board. Ned is down to 1 threat. In his hand, despite him having a lot of cards, doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, and more importantly, that threat dies to even Electrolyze at this point.
Yes.
So... Oh, Ned draws a negate, though. That's so big.
The
my
negate.
God. But Vince has the counter to negate, but now he's going to get beamed for 4 when Ned passes his resto. Rutro Raggy. So suddenly things go horribly wrong.
So Ned had the very, very cute play of allowing him to go to blocks first, and then just pathing anyways, because
now he's got trample, right? Yeah.
So
it's an academic difference, but yeah.
A little bit of a BM value lost there.
Wow.
But
Ned is just playing good cards. Holy moly.
Yeah. So there's Thoughtseize there. That's going to get binned, and...
I think there was another Tarmogoyf. I think I saw the Future Sight border.
Alright, well...
Vince is in trouble.
There's a little bit of trouble here.
Oh, man. He's going to be so sad he lost to a Tribal Flames deck if he loses this match. Holy moly. But Vince... Okay, Wall of Omens stops for a turn.
Alright, Wall of Omens is just a redraw.
He has to redraw, yeah. And, he'll fog. But this negate from Ned is so big.
It's so... Especially since you said Vincent, he has Wrath of God. That's not Supreme Verdict.
I mean, he's a 1-1 split.
Sure, but,
Oh, if he tries to snap it, though.
Snap it or
something. Whoa, snap Wrath of God so bad. Oh, and the wall gets pathed here. Wow. Ned just decides, you know what? We're going in. And, that seems fine.
You got Negate Backup?
Negate Backup is just so good.
I think I might have preferred for this to be after blocks.
Sure.
Just so, you don't get ambushed by some weird,
Resto stuff.
Like Snapcaster play that allows, still block.
Yeah. So Vince is going to go to 5 here. And I think, Ned's going to play this Tarmogoyf, and then it's a 1-turn clock for Vince. Oh, wait, he's tapping more than that. Oh, Tribal Flames, I forget, he had the Tribal Flames, and that's going to do it. Vincent Adinolfi goes down 2 games to none to a Tribal Flames deck. If you know Vince in real life, be sure to ask him about playing against Tribal Flames and also how nobody plays that deck, because that is, that's just a little extra BM for Vince. But yeah, as we saw, both games, Vincent's draw just wasn't super strong in the early game, and then there, mulliganing to 5 and just not being able to deal with all the threats. Yeah, no, just flames to the dome indeed, Weak Star. There is nothing better than tap 2 mana, deal 5 to you. Jeez. There's that, and that's just it. Dan is out looking for another match, but yeah, I think Vince basically played to his outs. Ned had some good draws. Vince here showing Ned the Molten Rains in the board. I don't think he brought them in, but Molten Rain against a Tribal Flames deck, they're not, if you can if they have not that many lands, you can really cut them off some colors. that being said, that game, obviously, Ned, no problems with the mana, had like 7 or 8 lands in play, and if he had fewer lands, he obviously would have just been like running Vince over. So, yeah, that was interesting. Vince just unfortunately had to mull the 5 that second game and never really recovered. Like after the Wrath of God, it seemed fine, but then that Ned having negate plus the ability to plus the path for the resto and the wall just completely stopped Vince from keeping from like fogging for a turn or something like that, which is obviously devastating as a Jeskai player, because you're just like, sure, I'll trade my wall, I've drawn a card, but that's gonna be the end of that one. Dan is, like I said, looking for another match as we speak. So there was a question in chat about the best artifact in Kaladesh, and that is a really, really good question. Let me see if I can find who asked that. Here, we'll cut back to the booth for a second. Yeah, so, I don't want to talk about this. How dare you? That was I don't know if anyone heard that, but that was Vince. He just sort of walked through the back. He said that he doesn't want to talk about it. But all right. Besides the Gear Hulks, Gamer Champ asked this question. Besides the Gear Hulks, what do you think is the best artifact to come out of this set? And we do have another match. Yeah. All right, we have another match. We'll get to your question after this, Gamer Champ. But we are hopping right back into it. 20 life for both players. And who are we watching, Dan?
We are watching Alex Perez and Jamie Armstrong.
All right. And do you know what these guys are playing?
Yeah, Alex, they're going to game 3. Alex lost game 2, so he'll be on the play. He is on Bant Eldrazi.
Of course.
And Jamie is on Mardu.
Mardu something?
Mardu with Nahiri's, Liliana, Bob, and an Emrakul.
Yo, he's playing the Mardu Nahiri deck with the Bobs. Oh, so spicy.
So flip Emrakul take 15 is a real line.
I mean, come on. That only happens like what? Very infrequently, I hope.
I mean,
one
would certainly hope so.
So I've seen builds of this deck online and whatnot with what you call it, with Wall of Omens, because you still do draw a card, you still like get a guide and stuff. Those people aren't living dangerously enough, in my opinion. Those people certainly those people need to sort of just take a deep breath and play Bob. But I mean, I think there's obviously there's merits to both.
There's an argument for not wanting to take 15.
I feel like that's one of those things that you can just say, and no matter what, it's true, right? Like that doesn't.
It doesn't make it any less true.
You're not wrong, Dan. You're not wrong. You're like, okay, fair.
Right.
Fair.
So one of the strengths of Mardu though is that you get access to cards like Crackling Doom.
God, that card's so good.
Which is a very efficient way of getting rid of Rally Smashers. Mm-hmm. Shockingly good, really. Yeah,
the whole not targeting you thing seems great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Wow, Crackling Doom. Do you know if he's playing Crackling Doom?
He is. I took a look at his list.
That's so cool. Anything else spicy he's got? Do you have Liliana Nahiri?
Liliana Nahiri's. I think he boarded out some of the Bobs.
Okay.
Not entirely sure. I mean, this is a sideboarded game.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just. I mean, you get access to a lot of cards that are just good, but notably you miss the green ones. You lose Abrupt Decay,
right?
And you lose Goyf.
Goyf is big. When I've played against these Mardu decks, I've found that it's like, wow, I really, really wish that I had a
closer.
A closer, yeah, but not just a closer because obviously Emrakul's your closer, but like a closer that I can just play and forget about, right? Yes. Like you play your Goyf, you don't have to care. You're just like, wow, Goyf them, and then they lose. So Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing is those colors really don't have good 2-drop options. Like, some people have tried to make Young Pyromancer work. Like, I feel like it's just a little bit too slow, you know?
Right. But with the Mardu colors, you get, I mean, you get a lot of the disruption and a lot of the removal.
Okay. So here we're going to see an Inquisition of Kozilek from Jamie.
Taking a Matter Reshaper.
Taking Matter Reshaper. Still enabling Alex is going to have a turn 2 Matter Reshaper.
And a turn 3 Thought Knot.
And a turn 3 Thought Knot off Eldrazi Temple. I think Eldrazi Temple is one of the strongest candidates in the format for potentially being banned. I think that just soul lands are powerful, and I'm not saying it should be necessarily. I'm just saying that it is. I think it's not unlikely that Temple could see a ban. And here's a Thoughtseize as well. Draws Reality Smasher. In this situation, do you take the Reality Smasher or do you take the Thought Knot? I guess it depends on what's in your hand.
Well, I take the Thought Knot here because
you can play it immediately. Oh, shoot, you're right. Okay, so he does have the Crackling Doom.
Right.
He is going to... So Alex is at 18, and Jamie is also at... No, Jamie's going to go to 16, because he's Thoughtseize plus Shocked.
Right. And currently, there's no clean way of dealing with the Thought Knot.
Right.
But there's a clean way of dealing with Reality Smasher. And Jamie has a Nahiri
He took the Thought Knot, though.
Right. Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah,
Take
you're
the
right,
Thought
you're
Knot. And Jamie also has a Nahiri in hand, so he even has a clean way of dealing with the Matter Reshaper.
Right, that's actually super powerful because Matter Reshaper, as we know, when it dies, it draws a card, but when you exile it, obviously it doesn't technically die.
Better than drawing a card.
Well, yeah, sometimes it just ramps you by 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Matter Reshaper dying into play Eldrazi Temple is crazy.
Yes.
Like, wow. He's double rampant growth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the nice parts...
a third Matter Reshaper coming in here. And that's Surfer 3 going to put Jamie to... So he's going to go to 12 here. So Jamie already under a lot of pressure. These Matter Reshapers, this draw is like very aggressive from Alex.
Yeah, this is a two-turn clock. Jamie has an option. He has access to Path to Exile in this deck. But unfortunately, he has to pass here. He has to play a third land, so he has Crackling Doom for the Reality Smasher.
That's the problem here is, the Smasher is coming. No matter what, so he will take. I don't think he can afford. Can he take a turn off to play Liliana right now?
If he plays Liliana this turn, he'll get a Matter Reshaper. Almost certainly will come down with Reality Smash next turn, and then the Matter Reshaper might just go face.
Yeah, and here's the problem. I mean, this start is just insane for Alex.
Right. So if that happens. For example, if Jamie plays the Liliana this turn, he'll go to 11, at least from cracking this fetch.
Yeah.
Which means that the next swing for 8 puts Jamie down to 3.
Okay.
And then
he's just dead,
Crackling Doom's not even good enough.
Right. Okay, so here he'll probably fetch, basic Swamp and just...
Crackling Doom. But goes to 5. And now all of a sudden you have...
you have 6 power on board, yeah.
Yeah. But then you can follow up with a Nahiri.
Right.
Go to 2.
I agree.
And, it's not looking good, but...
Oh, so... Alex electing not to cast Reality Smasher pre-combat. And this is very good for Jamie.
Yes.
Lightning Helix, very strong card here. Gonna prevent, gonna gain the same, effectively, net life. Path to Exile drawn for Alex. That feels kind of dead.
Yeah, super dead here. It's not going to do anything. Jamie's hand is Planeswalker heavy.
Right.
And next turn, if Jamie just wants to go, if he has a 4th land, just play Nahiri, Exile
Matter Reshaper,
Matter Reshaper, and that's just fine.
Unless this is this is another 3-drop. Another Matter Reshaper. Is that all of them?
This is the 4th one.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Also, in the chat, nice foils for Alex. Yeah, he plays almost exclusively foil decks, I think, right?
Yeah.
He plays foil Infect, foil Eldrazi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since a lot of these cards are in Standard, not too unreasonable.
Sure.
Yeah. The foil Ravnica Shocks are worth a little bit. Foil Caverns are worth a little bit.
Only a little bit, though.
A little bit. I mean, we're talking with format with, foil Future Sight Goyfs.
Have you played against those?
I have. They're very shiny.
Playing against foil Future Sight Goyfs is an experience. I mean, you also probably get smashed. This was back when I was playing Twins, so I lost, but...
they've always been worth quite a bit, but they're not, worth an
abundance.
Well, they weren't,
super
absurd back in the day?
4th land has been drawn. So do you think it's right here to minus your Nahiri on the Matter Reshaper? Or because the reality smasher will hit you for 5, and the Reshaper will kill your Nahiri. Is this I hope this is oh, that's an I. Okay, I'm not sure that's right.
I'm not thrilled about this. It takes the path because Jamie knows his hand 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so he's gonna pass. I think I like. Well, this holds up Crackling Doom. The problem is that Alex doesn't care. Like, I think that playing the Nahiri forces Alex to commit to the board with the Smasher, and this way he doesn't have to play anything, and now Jamie will have been inefficient with the 3 mana that he has.
Right. If Jamie had played the Nahiri and just exiled a Displacer, the Displacer not Displacer, excuse me, the Reshaper.
Right.
The Reshaper would have killed Nahiri, and then a Reality Smasher kills him for 5. But then you still have Crackling Doom to deal with.
Right, and then the Reshaper hits you again, and you go to 4. And if Alex doesn't draw another threat, you play Lily, sack it.
Yeah.
Make him sack it. So I really like the Nahiri line there. I think that although Alex is going to sort of play into this by committing the Smasher.
But again, this is perfectly
this is fine. Because he's just going to get... Okay, so there's a Crackling Doom.
Jamie's going to go to 6.
Yeah. And Alex will go to, what? 16?
16, yes.
Oh, Crackling Doom, what a card. So now you play Nahiri and you minus.
Right. Jamie's still kind of in the same position.
Yeah. I think that, Alex... I think he's quite lucky that Alex forced him to commit there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think he might have drawn a Kalidas. That's super
Kalidas
good.
is an insane draw here. If Alex cannot deal with this, he's just going to lose the game on the spot.
Right, and Jamie took the path, too.
Yeah, Jamie took the path.
It looks like a genius move. There's something. Uh-oh.
Is this another Smasher?
No, it's not enough. What?
That's an Eternal Witness.
Oh, no! Rebuy. Wait, how did... Oh, he ghost quartered himself. Okay.
Yes. And Jamie's just dead?
Well, he can't cast the path.
No, he...
Oh, wait, how did he cast the Ewit in the first place, though?
He probably named Human on Cavernous Cells.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow, that is an incredible line by Alex to have the foresight to name Human there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, well, you know what? Actually, he's playing against a non-counter magic deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
the only card in his deck that he probably can't cast is Eternal Witness.
Right, and that's so smart because he doesn't need to care about the cavern making rainbow mana. Like, sure, it maybe helps you cast your Drowner or your Displacer a little bit easier, but being green is a huge.
It's a huge cost in this deck.
Yeah. Alex Perez gonna take it down 2-1 over Jamie Armstrong with a clutch. That was a turn 2 play, and he didn't draw the Witness until just now.
Yeah.
So
obviously a very good draw. But
no, just the foresight to do that.
Excellent foresight. So name Human with his Cavern Cells.
Alex is a very tight technical player. He is one of the. I think he's one of the better players at this shop, most certainly.
No, absolutely, and Alex definitely has a lot of experience with this deck as well.
Yeah, he's been playing Eldrazi in one form or another since Eldrazi Winter started.
Oh, absolutely.
He was playing a 5-color list. It wasn't even. Wasn't playing blue-white. He was like, I'm just gonna play this deck with Ancient Ziggurat and stuff.
Yeah.
It's what's happening?
He also he was the one who suggested the spicy sideboard tech to get around Ensnaring Bridge.
Silent Skimmer.
Silent Skimmer.
All right, for those of you who don't know Silent Skimmer, we're gonna go on a journey here. Silent Skimmer. Oh wait, let's turn on this card image here. Bah. Okay, this card gets around Ensnaring Bridge. This card exists for no other reason. It is an 0/4 flyer for 4, which whenever it attacks, defending player loses 2 life. This card is crazy. It gets around Worship. It gets around Bridge. That card actually seems legitimately in a terrible meta where everyone was playing sideboard Worship. That card seems fine.
Does this get around Worship?
Yeah, because it loses life.
Is Worship specific about damage?
I was because you can kill someone with Vapor Snag through Worship.
Oh, that's right.
That's not.
Oh, wait, here we go. A lot of cards.
Okay, damage that would reduce your life total.
That gets around Worship.
Yeah, no. So Silent Skimmer is what is sort of a thing that Alex used to play in his Eldrazi deck, and he's a very inventive brewer. Also, one of the things with Bant Eldrazi that's so strong right now is you play Displacer, and you play Eternal Witness,
Yeah,
and you just do it every turn.
this place is very good. I think what really ties Banto Eldrazi together is Ancient Stirrings.
Absolutely.
Without the card Ancient Stirrings, I don't know if the deck is playable. Because being able to dig for your temples
is crazy.
makes it very consistent.
And you can also what's also kind of insane is you can find your sideboarded silver. You can find your like spell skites. You can find your engineered explosives with Ancient Stirrings. Like, you know, I've heard some people jokingly call it Mega Ponder because you're like you dig 5 cards and you know. Like, I saw Alex actually go through this sequence once where he went turn 1 Shock Hierarch. His opponent didn't kill the Hierarch. And Alex went Ancient Stirrings off the Hierarch. Okay. Get a Temple. Play the Temple. Cast a Displacer. So the Ancient Stirrings ramped him.
Yes.
Like, he cast the cantrip. He found a Soul Land and just slammed it.
Right.
Just like, wow, that is
access to
it's quite good.
and
Oh man, he's got an All His Dust in his deck.
yeah.
I guess that's really good against Planeswalkers.
It's good against like a lot of things,
Yeah,
right?
but like I feel like Eldrazi specifically, like they have a hard time doing anything other than attacking Planeswalkers.
Right.
So All His Dust, and also gets around Blood Moon and stuff.
And 7 is not ridiculous to get to when you have Noble Hierarchs as well.
Also, Temple taps for 2 to cast All His Dust.
Yes, because
So-
it is an Eldrazi spell.
Right, which is again similarly insane. So yeah, that, and it looks like also he has like big Elspeth in his board.
Chris.
He looks like he's got big Elspeth and Gideon Jura. Which I expect are for the both quite good in the mirror, obviously. Elspeth play at minus, like, cool.
Right. And yeah, the big Planeswalkers, really good in like your Jundish type matchups.
Yeah.
Just like Jund is very weak to those kind of effects, and just like an excellent card.
Yeah. I've been playing Jeskai Geist list recently with a main deck Gideon Jura, and the card is I think it's probably should cut it for something better, but like there's been enough times where it's come up where in this crazy aggro format you just play Gideon plus, like, buy yourself 2 turns and like you draw out of what you need to.
Yeah, I mean a lot of times it's like you can gain 10, 15 life from a Gideon.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, if your opponent is on small creature aggro, at least in the Jeskai decks, you can animate your Colonnade to block, which is sort of crazy.
But yeah, does anyone else in chat have any requests for what we have next in our final round of Swiss?
Yes, that would be great.
We'll try to get something a little different. I know we've had Infect on twice, as we have Fish. We got we got a request for Taylor Swift. I'll allow it. But we're just kind of wrapping up here in round 3. We should have our 4th and final round up shortly. In the meantime, we're going to go to a very short intermission here and stay with us for the last round of Modern.
Oh, are we on?
Get SoundCloud Go and get rid of previews.
And we are back here at MTG Card Market. Dan and I have been discussing what the best non-Gear Hulk artifact in Kaladesh is going to be, and we are, you know, we're agreeing to disagree on some of these things. Sorry for this ad. I will get it to the correct one. Okay, and go. Okay, perfect. Anyway, so non-Gear Hulk artifacts. Gamer Champ asked this question about Kaladesh, and honestly, this is hard. Okay, I'll be honest. I'm a huge fan of, like, I know it's bad, but I really like the possibility of killing someone with 50 damage Aetherflux Reservoir Discharge. Obviously, that's not particularly good. So, you know, some of the contesters for it, Fleet Wheel Cruiser seems very strong. You know, enters a battlefield, has haste. You know, can trample for 5. I think Filigree Familiar is going to play a critical role in stabilizing for decks that, you know, possibly. I've seen people thinking about playing sort of a split of Filigree Familiar and Pilgrim's Eye in Emerge lists. You know, there's a crazy combo deck running around that tries to cast that 10 mana like Colossus thing, Metalwork Colossus, which is a 10/10 that costs less when you have a bunch of CMC for artifacts. So that might be like a good synergy piece, but like straight up the most powerful artifact I think is hard. Obviously, you know, like excluding the Gear Hulks, of course, because I think we would probably pick one of them as the strongest. Jeez. I think that Cultivator's Caravan will see some play. I think that, you know, it ramps. It's a 5/5 crew 3, so the crewing isn't too onerous. I think that you know, I'm basically just listing all these good artifacts, and I'm not actually making a choice here. Oh man, this is just. There's so many artifacts in Kaladesh, and I honestly have not paid enough attention to Standard. I think that it's going to be very challenging for some control decks to deal with these instant, you know, these creatures that are immune to sorcery speed removal. Like, if you have a vehicle and you can keep a creature in hand and then they wrath you, they play Fumigate, whatever, play your creature, animate the vehicle, and wow, you're off to the races again. So, scrolling through, and he's looking at. One second, guys. Just gonna see who we can get for our feature match here. That's infect. Damn it.
You're not lying yet, right?
We are right now. Yeah, we're talking about these artifacts, but we should pick a match first.
We seeding the Brett. It's the 2 3-0s are currently playing on feature match here.
So,
table one. It's Kyle Herman and
Matthew Andrews.
Yeah.
All right, so we will get right over to that.
Yeah.
Do you know who's on the left here?
I believe that is Matthew.
Maybe want to check that just to be sure.
Yeah. But yeah, this should be actually a pretty quick matchup here. This is Infect versus Burn.
Jeez, wow. So the aggro decks came out big tonight.
The aggro came out big tonight. Yeah. This is Kyle.
Kyle's on the right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is.
But yeah, with luck, we should be able to squeeze in the full second match as well.
Yeah, honestly, Infect versus Burn. Draw your Searing Blazes or die, I guess, for the Burn deck.
Well, I mean, Burn, you got always points. Rift Bolts add creatures.
That's true. You do have like a wealth of bolt effects that really can mess people up. Mm-hmm. While we're waiting for them to start, I was just sort of musing with the stream about what the best. And is Kyle on Infect?
Kyle is on Burn.
Kyle's on Burn. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were just musing about the best non-Gear Hulk artifact in Kaladesh. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Well, what was your conclusion?
So I think that it's probably I really like Smuggler's Copter. It's a crew 1, 3/3 for 2, and every time you hit, you can loot. And I think that that's going to be extremely powerful in aggro decks for keeping their card quality high. And I also think that there's a good chance that there's a good chance that you can just kill someone with your 3/3 flyer. It's also great at pressuring Gideon, which I think is crucial for I think will be like an important part of any deck is can you deal with a resolved Gideon Jura or not Gideon Jura, Gideon ally of Zendikar.
Sure.
Because indestructible 5/5s that make 2/2s are good.
No, I agree. And we're just talking strictly standard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Smuggler's Copter seems very good. I'm also, I'm kind of excited about Flagship.
Yeah, just big, hit him for 6,
Just
steal
big,
3.
yeah. It makes all your creatures, like,
Yeah.
on turn 6, if you just play a Tireless Tracker, all of a sudden, like, alright, crew it.
Yeah.
And then hit you for 9.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Well, hit you for 6 and then bolt something.
Right. So as we get into this match here, we're going to see, so Kyle went turn 1 to Coddle, and Matthew is going to fetch shock for Breeding Pool to play Glistener Elf. Oh yes, he's on Infect.
So, both decks pretty much doing what they want to do.
Yeah, I definitely think, it's having sometimes Burn draws those creature light hands, obviously very good here, to have that. There's a Lava Spike, I see a Goblin Guide and other Foothills. Seems like it's going to be a pretty good start for the Burn deck, and as long as Matthew doesn't do something crazy with like Distortion Strike, leaving back a blocker is just really good.
Yeah. Playing a naked Glistener Elf on turn 1 is also really risky against a deck that is just mono removal.
Yeah, mono removal.
Well, it's not mono removal, but
It's close.
There's more removal in this deck than most decks would run.
Mm-hmm. And that Wild Nikado obviously going to become a 3/3 because of the Sacred Foundry that was just fetched up. And one of the nice things for Burn in this matchup is that they don't have to care about their life total unless some weird corner case with attacking with Noble Hierarch happens.
So
and
here's going to be I believe Kyle has double Goblin Guide. So this
really?
is just going to be.
Oh my god, that's a swing for 7.
Here's 7.
Jeez.
You're dead next turn.
Trigger reveals Gitaxian Probe. Wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, so Matthew's going to be down to 10, and Kyle almost certainly, in
Yo.
like 4 cards, has 3 points in hand.
He has 2 lava spikes.
Yeah, so Matthew needs to turn to Kyle,
I feel like that's really hard to do
or
here.
he's just dead.
I feel like I don't know. I mean, I see a mutagenic in there. Like that's like pretty busted, right? So
Mutagenic's good.
mutagenic, like you need to do 10 points of damage though.
Right, so Mutagenic and like double groundswell is fine. But
You also
like,
need, there's I don't know. There's like a taxing probe on top, so it's possible that Become Immense, like you could potentially chain into Become Immense stuff.
right, but
The question is, does Matt? I feel like if you're infect here, you're just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna pay life for this probe because I'm dead otherwise, right?
right at this point, like, so Matthew does have a couple of creatures in hand. He has a Noble Hierarch and a Scavenging Ooze, so he can set up potential blocks.
He has a Scavenging Ooze?
Okay, that can't be a Scavenging Ooze. He has at least a Noble Hierarch in hand.
Yeah. So here's his land. Let's see what he does.
He plays a Noble.
He plays a Noble. Okay, so he's got 2 points effectively of attacks now.
And that's
That's-
double Vines, Distortion Strike,
Muta.
Gitaxian Probe. I don't unless
I think you have to probe here and hope you draw something.
Unless-
I think he's just dead actually.
yeah. I mean, he does have a block now with Noble, but that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
This is kind of from Kyle.
I would distortion strike your elf. He's gonna pay life for the probe. I feel like this start is like impossible. Oh my god, there's double Boros Charm.
Oh, and Lava Spike. Okay, so if you have set up what? Well, at this point, you're just dead.
Yes. Unless you double block, but that's bad.
Yeah, if you don't.
Oh, he draws another elf though, so he can double block now.
So
He's gonna swing. He's
Okay.
gonna put 2 poison onto Kyle, so he can double block. That was a huge draw off that probe.
right. So Kyle wins immediately with any land draw, any 1-mana spell. Drew a
Oh,
land.
he drew the land. What
So-
a player.
This is just.
It's,
Kyle,
it's
yeah.
academic at this point.
Well, he has 7 points in hand, and then
Right.
one of these things is going to connect.
Yeah, so he's gonna get a 14 here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that seems like just the play draw disparity in this matchup so huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you think about Matthew is probably only like maybe a turn away from killing Kyle. Like I think he could probably do 8 next turn.
Yeah, no, that's
He could do 8 because it's Hierarch, Muta, Kicked Vines.
Could easily do 8 next turn,
Yeah.
but like Kyle just with the double Goblin Guide draw just forces Matt. It's like, do you have the turn 2?
Double Goblin Guide is nutty.
Because if
And
you don't have
that's
the turn
gonna
2,
do
it's just
it.
not good enough.
That is Kyle Herman on burn. He won the die roll, and he's
And
a
just
game
had the
towards
nuts.
winning the match. Yeah.
Had the nuts.
Double Goblin Guide is so scary, especially with the Nakatl too. Like if they go Goblin Guide, it's one thing. If they go like Goblin Guide and like Nakatl Guide, you're just like, oh, that's actual 7. Yeah. So
not much you can do there.
yeah, yeah. So Gamer Champ did agree with us about the Sky Sovereign flagship and Smuggler's Copter. I don't know about Modern though. I think that it's going to be hard for some of these to find a place in Modern. There was a very interesting write-up that was circulating around some of the Magic the Gathering subreddits about the Hall of Fame of cards that weren't good enough for Affinity. And there's some very, very strong cards in there. So a lot of these artifacts I think would people maybe want to slot them into potentially slot them into Affinity.
And they just weren't good enough.
I don't know if Smuggler's Copter is good enough either, because think about what you have at the 2-drop slot, right?
Yeah.
You have
You have to you have to beat Ravager. You have to beat Cranioplating.
you have to beat Steel Overseer, which is like one of Steel Overseer plus multiple Ornithopters is so busted.
Right, and this is a deck where and Soul Artifact, which is not good enough.
Right.
Like
You know
a
what's-
potential turn 2 5/5 indestructible, not good enough.
1 mana draw 2 Thoughtcast, also not good enough.
Right. It's just over time the number of cards you've had access to, it's just so streamlined. There's just so many good cards.
Right, and I think there's like I feel like there is a desire to sort of slot these things in Affinity, like with a Smuggler's Copter, right? You can theoretically improve your draw steps and stuff. But I've also seen Affinity players, sometimes play a Seagate Wreckage if they really need to.
Right. And even cards that are almost free, like Seagate Wreckage. Like,
Right.
you're not really giving up that much to play Seagate. Oftentimes, just not good enough.
Yeah, Affinity is such a tight list. I mean, maybe there's a...
No, there might be artifacts for non-affinity lists. There's a possibility that, you know, there could be a cute deck with the double ETB for a 4-mana artifact.
Oh, the Panharmonicon.
Right.
I'm so happy I know that name.
I mean, there's an outside shot that, like, that might be something, but, like, again, a little too dirtily, might not. It's just the format is so streamlined that you can't really take turns off doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that there's, you know, Affinity is just, you have to be, like, you know, borderline, like, you know, Ravager, obviously, like, was Ravager banned back in the day in Extended? Or maybe they banned the artifact lands.
They banned all the soul lands.
Okay.
Not
Artifact
soul lands.
lands.
Artifact lands and Disciple.
Okay, so Ravager wasn't banned, but just, like, okay, let's see the draws here. Okay, there is a Kitchen Finks in hand for Matthew, who is drawing upside down, which is something that whenever my deck and I start drawing like that, I stop and I turn it around. It bothers me.
But looks like a very excellent draw, because there's a Glistener Elf.
There's an elf.
Kitchen
He has a Kitchen Finks. This draw seems probably the best that Matthew could have hoped for. If he... Kyle is going to mulligan, too, which is, you know, that's a big deal with Burn.
Yeah, I mean, you need the Critical Mass of cards.
Yeah.
It's better than all, though, than keep, like, a 4-lander.
Oh, of course.
Even, like, 3-landers. There's a lot of 3-landers that you might want to throw back.
Right, and one of the things here that Alpal B, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, sorry dude, but Alpal BP in the chat saying is if there's a hierarch, that's a turn 2 Kitchen Finks, which means Kyle won't have any access to Skullcrack. So, which is so devastating sometimes when you're playing against Burn. You're just like, cool, I'm gonna Lightning Helix your thing, and then you're just like Skullcrack you or a Tarkus command. You're just like, oh my god.
Right.
Bonus points if the Atarkus command pushes their Swift Spear out of Helix range. Oh my god. That's happened to me more than once. It's real bad.
Yeah, and the thing with these burn decks now is, like, they're much more creature heavy than they used to be.
Especially the Coddle's really showing up again.
You have Eidolon, Swift Spear, Goblin Guides.
Yeah.
So Kitchen Finks doesn't only represent, you know, potentially 4 points of life gain. It's also, it trades with one of your dudes.
And then comes back for more.
Right.
Like... You know, like Goblin Guide against a Kitchen Finks just seems bad.
Sure, right.
Just like, wow, cool, this guy's gonna die.
Right. And there's a lot of draws where it doesn't do anything, but I mean, it's just short of like a Feed the Clan with Ferocious. Kitchen Finks is one of the best cards against Brian.
Oh man, Feed the Clan with Ferocious. What a fantastic Magic card.
Yeah.
So we're going to start it off with Matthew probing for life here. You know, just sort of trying to see what you're going to look at. He does shock himself to do this, but, you know, that happens.
But Kyle, with what can only be described as a pretty excellent hand.
Yeah, no, there's Boros Charm, Atarka's Command, Swift Spear, Eidolon, and 2 lands, and that's a 6. That seems great.
Yeah.
Like, that seems, you know, when you mulligan to 6 and burn, this is like a dream right now.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's not going to match up well against the Kitchen Finks, but, like...
Yeah, Eidolon, though, is so punishing for Infect.
Eidolon's quite punishing, yes.
Like, you just... Infect doesn't play 4-mana spells except for Become Immense.
Yeah.
Alright, so draw from Probe. There's going to be a cracking of a Misty Rainforest into a Hierarch, and we'll see. I think it probably makes sense to fetch for a basic forest here, but I know that, okay, no, he is going to get the Breeding Pool. He's going to go to 15. I think Matthew wants to have as much access to, you know, his full suite of colors as possible. You know, maybe there's possibly he probably has some blue spells in hand. Disruption. He's got a Spell Pierce, so that is Spell Pierce is such a good Magic card. Holy moly! But I think the play here, like, you just play Swift Spear, right? Just get him.
Yes,
Or kill the Hierarch. I don't know. It's always hard with Burn versus Infect because you want to face, but so you just hope you draw your Searing Blazes and you do both, right?
Right. But Kyle, like, unless he drew one on his roster, did not have access to kill. And at a certain point, like, when you play Burn, you kind of price yourself into not paying, not bolting Burns, right? Like,
right. You need to just face that and. Yeah. Yeah, so
Just free damage.
there's a Swift Spear coming in for 1. I think, you know, there's some talk in the chat right now that there shouldn't have been a and that is that right there, my friends, is a Finks. He's going to go up to 16. That the probe should have been cut. I do like cutting probe in this matchup. I'm not sure that, you know, you do know what the burn player has, but you also...
Right. The benefit of playing probe is you pay life for it. And you don't really want to do that in this matchup.
Really? I'm shocked.
Kyle also has a free attack here.
Right. Because Matt has seen his hand and knows, so he's going to go to 14. One thing that's interesting is that Kitchen Finks is also sometimes just a beater, right?
Yeah.
Like this, you know, if Kyle puts himself too low, fetch shocking for stuff. Although now he's reached a point in his colors that he can, you know, effectively not
but look,
just get mountain from now on.
Kitchen Finks is going to attack for 4.
Oh, you're right. I completely forgot about the Exalted. That's super good. So
Right.
this is like
Kyle's on a 3-turn clock.
four turn.
4-turn clock.
Yeah.
And if Kyle spends his turn playing Eidolon, he drew a path, which is why he fetched Sacred Foundry.
I think, oh man, yeah, that Swift Spear is going.
I would prefer attacking with the Swift Spear first.
Hope you get the block.
If you get the block, you get the Tarkus command. Else, path is fine as well.
Okay, so path is going to go there.
Right. If you attack first, you leave your opponent the opportunity to misplay.
Right, agreed. And this makes it much easier for Matthew to just untap and kill you with an Inkmoth Nexus.
Right.
Like, holy moly.
But this guarantees you getting into damage.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. I do think, though, that because, again, this is play draw just coming up huge, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Kyle I feel like in that situation you hold, like, the path can kill the Inkmoth, and also just, like, if there's, like, mutagenic Become Immense in here, I think he's just dead.
Right.
And there is a Muta. I don't see the Become Immense. I do see a Spell Pierce.
But also importantly, like, as far as, like, play draw goes, like, think about it. Like, if Kyle had been in play here, Eidolon would have been down before Kitchen Fink, so he would have taken 2 for that. Path would have meant that he would attack for 4 instead of attacking only for 2.
Yeah.
It's... The difference in these aggressive decks from being on a play and draw is enormous.
Yeah. So, Matthew gonna get in there. Ding Kyle, little chip shot for 2 poison. You know, he's not all the way Phyrexian yet, but he's working on it. And here comes a Glistener Elf. Again, Eidolon not down. Glistener Elf comes in for free.
Right.
And this just makes it super hard for Kyle to sort of prioritize what's going where, although he doesn't have things that hit creatures right now. So, you know, he has Boros Charm or Tarkus Command, neither of which are particularly effective against... Okay, so there is the Eidolon. It might be too little too late. Matthew he can hit him for 4 with the Muta, and kicked Vines for another 4.
And
so is Kyle just dead?
Yeah.
Seems like it. So yeah, he's gonna get in there for 1. But again, I think that, you know, we've sort of beaten it to death, but play draw, dude. Holy moly.
Yeah,
he's gonna go to 12. Okay.
Yeah, just double checking. Yeah, attack for the Inkmoth, Exalted makes it 2, Mutagenic makes it 4,
Kick Vines makes it 8.
And
that's
he's
it.
already at 2. That's it.
And this is one of those situations where it's like, you know, Burn does have a lot of bolt effects, but not all of them hit creatures, right? Like, this is why Spellskite can be sometimes not good.
Right. Having to take turn 2 off to path meant that you were so far behind in tempo.
Agreed. Okay, so
Kind of remembering his
gonna
triggers.
get on the Eidolon trigger there, and then we're gonna Muta, so he's gonna go to 8 from the Eidolon triggers, but it's not gonna matter since he is going to Compliat, or how, you know, however you say that, Phyrexian, you know, he's gonna turn him into poisony goodness, and that's gonna be game 2. But again, Burn back on the play game 3, right? Like, yikes, it's pretty scary. Oh shit, round timer.
Yeah.
Would you mind go checking real quick? Yeah, so the round timer is not up. Dan's gonna go check it right now. We'll endeavor to have more accurate round timers in the future. But yeah, so no, this is gonna be game 3 here, and we will see. We will see. Okay. So there's about 31 minutes left in this round. We'll get that rolling. Cool. Yeah, so again, Burn's going to be on the play. We can see if he'll have that like crazy Nikotl start. That crazy, Nikotl double goblin guy, just like angry.
Yeah, especially it didn't even have. In effect, you can't deal with Nikotl, much less two goblin guys that follow it.
David L. Byer and Assless Chaps, man. There was a period where we were not streaming, but we are back. Dan and I are going to be doing this basically every week from here on out. We're super excited to do so. So tune in every Wednesday, and we will be streaming. To generic-ish, that was not Latin. There's actually a word that's in the flavor for Magic called compleat. It's spelled Compleat, and it means to like turn into a Phyrexian whore by using the oil, which is what Infect is doing.
Look at Matt dropping some lore knowledge.
Yo, I am a huge lore flavor fan. I think that stuff's great. I understand why some people aren't a huge fan, but I personally dig it. It doesn't but I do understand why not everyone is like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna read all the stories and stuff. David O. Byer.
Currently, no legacy stream, but it may be back in the future.
Right. Matthew, looking at his hand here, there's like double Pendelhaven, double Inkmoth. I don't know if that's fast enough, but we're about to find out.
Pendelhaven always a little awkward to draw in doubles as well.
Right. Well, I mean,
as is true with any double legendary.
Right. So Matthew got a mulligan here. I think that's, it's probably right, because the thing was he had like Inkmoth, Pendelhaven, Hierarch, Blighted Agent, Gitaxian Probe or something. So like that just seems slow.
Yeah, that's like you're presenting a maybe turn 5 kill, and there's just no way that's good enough.
Right. And it's like double Pendelhaven too. Like you're saying, that's just the worst. You're just like, oh wow, this is awful.
It's just you're capable of so many more explosive draws. You have a turn 2 kill in your deck that you can assemble. But again, part of the problem with these linear aggressive decks, the mana is usually pretty bad, and just your pieces have to come together. I mean, for anyone who's played Infect, there are a lot of 7-card hands where it's like 2 land, 5 pump spell. Just completely unkeepable.
Right. And that's that's always like I was playing against Infect at a weekly a couple of weeks ago, and his only Infector was a Blighted Agent, and I had the Spell Snare on the draw, and
sometimes you do nothing for the rest
and he
of the game.
literally drew nothing, and it was just like his elves were like 2 or 3 cards from the top, but like I think it's obviously more like Burn obviously has more redundant pieces. Infect, I think obviously a little bit more explosive. You see Matthew debating whether to keep this 6 here. Looks like he's going to go to 5. This, yikes, does not bode well.
But again, of decks that can function well in 5, Infect is certainly one of them. Burn also has a lot of clunky draws.
True.
A lot of times you're priced into keeping one-landers, which may or may not get there. There's also you'll have a lot of awkward draws where you draw too many 2-drops, and then all of a sudden your super explosive deck is just playing 1 spell a turn for 5 turns, which is not impressive.
Right, and with Burn, like you want to have that like sick double goblin guy to like beam you start. Like you want to play 2 spells every turn if you can.
Right.
Okay, so it looks like Matthew is going to keep. He scries to the top. Inkmoth Nexus, Become Immense, Hierarch, Foothills. This hand seems great. Like for a 5?
If it has at least 1 pump spell in there.
There's a Become Immense.
Well then that seems.
There's a Become Immense
reasonable.
on the left.
There's a lot of draws that this can get to quickly. Kyle has no turn 1 play though.
There's also so there's a Dispel now. That is going to be a fetch shock for Hierarch. Yeah. Or fetch for something, and I'm not sure if it's a shock land. It probably is a shock land based on what we've seen from Matthew.
Well, Matthew.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Because Matthew had the turn 2 Kitchen Finks, he could fetch a lot more aggressively the last game.
Yeah, he has to be careful.
Fetch shocking is not something you want to do aggressively here.
Kyle, though, no
especially
creatures, and plays a second land, and doesn't do anything. I think he might be just trying to be controlling, question mark?
So, a lot of times the Burn deck also gets here's just mono spell draw.
Right. Yeah, fair. And you just have to you have to chip them more. You can't.
Yeah.
And I think he's gonna take 6 off these lands. It always feels really bad when like you don't know what you're supposed to fetch because of the color requirements in your hand. Then you draw the second fetch, and you're like, okay, now I have to 6 myself.
Or if you, or Kyle.
I mean,
Kyle
against
scrites
Infect, that's fine.
Yeah, Kyle scrites at the top.
Oh,
so it's
right.
possible that he kept the one land or solid land and then kind of priced himself into.
Double fetching and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? This is probably fine. I think he's gonna kill the Hierarch though. No.
No, Swiss Spear?
Okay. Oh, I guess he really did need that second land. There's a bolt. I think that goes higher. Oh, no. Okay, so that's going to be 5 damage.
Mm-hmm.
So Matthew down to 12. Yeah. So Matthew just playing his first Infector on that Ink Moth. Okay. Let me think about this math. So he needs to cast Muta. He's a ways away from casting Become Immense, but this Dispel is going to be nuts because it's going to stop damage from Kyle, and it's going to fuel his Become Immense.
Yes, absolutely.
And so now Kyle's going to fetch again. I think he probably just gets Mountain here, right? Like, I mean, I've been very wrong about fetch decisions before, but yeah, he's just going to get Mountain. He's got the classic, Stomping Ground Sacred Foundry. I can cast all my spells.
Right.
It's weird how good Ghost Quarter is against burn sometimes, where you can just like lock them off either red or green by just blowing up one of their lands.
Yeah, a lot of the land, the mana bases are very fragile, which makes just disruption with.
Ooh, that's an Eidolon.
Ooh,
That's
the
big
Eidolon.
game.
The Eidolon is going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, and a swing for 1. Matthew gonna fall to 11 here. We will see. I think, yeah, Matthew's still a ways off casting Become Immense, but like, what did he draw? I think he might have drawn he drew a Sphinx. Okay. He has 2, right? He got chipped. So I think here Matthew just.
No, they didn't. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3.
Okay, yeah. There's no infect damage right now. You're right. So he has a Sphinx here, which will, be neutral for life gain now, but I think that's like, I feel like you have to play the Sphinx, right? Unless or he can attack. I guess he can fire up the Infector and attack, but...
So the scary part is, if you play the Sphinx now, you drop the spell.
Right.
You can't keep up the spell. But the thing is, if you're trying to keep up the spell, you're going to lose the long game.
Agreed.
You're kind of...
Yeah, here we go.
You kind of have to play the Sphinx.
Okay, he's going to stay at 11.
Yeah.
This
also makes it blocks Eidolon quite well.
And even if he just has to chump the Swift Spear, he will gain life from that.
Right, unless it's an Autarka's command.
Oh, true. I don't know what Kevin has in hand.
There's a Boros.
There's
Charm.
a Boros Charm. I've seen that. Yeah. Come on, Kevin. Give us a look. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's another Swift Spear. Yeah, I can't tell what that middle card is, but it's Swift Spear, Mystery card, Boros Charm.
Right. So if you play the Boros Charm, and then. So funny enough, if he plays the Swift Spear, takes 2, and then attacks with both, and then Boros Charms.
Yeah.
That's effectively getting in for 6. And puts Matt to 5. Kyle's reasonably close to dying from Become Immense attack with Kitchen Finks.
Oh my god, you're right. So trigger Eidolon. Kyle gonna go to 11 here. Tap another mana. Path. Oh man, he has a path. That's huge.
Path is
goes to 9. I don't know, dude. This to me says
backbreaking.
But this also sets up that Become Immense though. Like not the okay, so here's the attack. So these are both coming for 3 each and that for 2, so he's going to go to 3.
So if Matt has another fetch, he's
go to 3.
Getting close. Unfortunately, Matt doesn't have quite enough
to Become Immense and animate, yeah.
No, not even that. Attack with Noble Hierarch.
Oh, you're not kidding me.
Because it's attack for 1 plus 2.
Oh, he drew a Blighted Agent. I think it might be over.
Yeah, this is a little too late. If Matt had drawn like fewer ink moths, more fetch lands,
right,
or more ways to put cards in the graveyard, he could attack with
spells, right?
Right, he could attack with the lethal Noble Hierarch. But currently, if he pays life, he can't pay life for mutagenic. which is kind of the problem.
That is correct, sir.
And at this point, the Eidolon is pretty much locking him out of the game.
I just don't think he has enough.
There's just not enough.
Oh, wait. Does Become Immense plus... I'm trying to think about... Can he dispel his own Become Immense? No, that doesn't get there. Or not dispel. Dispel his own muted... No, he dies to Eidolon triggers.
Right.
He can only cast one spell. What is he... Oh, he's paying mana. Okay, I was like, what's happening?
I think Matt just realized that...
he can't do that.
yeah, he's going to have to pay for this.
So he goes to 1? Wait. He needs to... no, he can't do that. There's a Finks exiled. Go.
Yeah.
We are... 1 second, guys. We are going to stop the... Wait, he might have... He's offering the concession, so... Okay. I'm not sure what just happened there. We're gonna get Dan out there just to make sure that that last sequence happened properly. But there was one too few mana to both Become Immense and Mutagenic, and that's what Dan's investigating now. So we'll tell you. So when Dan comes back, we'll get you the results of this match. But it looks like Kyle Herman should win. It does not look like Matthew has lethal. I'm very confused. Yeah, no, so just a little bit of miscommunication among the players. It's really important in this situation to try to be clear about your Eidolon triggers, and also be very, very specific when you're playing Infect about what's exiled and what's not, because you can't use your Kitchen Finks that are already exiled to fuel your Delve. So if the Finks had just died normally, Matthew does actually win that game because he has enough to do everything. I think. Yeah, because it's 1, 2, 3, 9. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Matthew does get there if that happens. Kyle got it right? What happened?
There was a little bit of discrepancy in the life total.
Okay.
And Matthew was at 5, not 3.
Okay, it was... Oh, you know what? I think it was... So this is 2...
This was attack for 6.
Oh, you're right. I counted the Swiss as a second pro trick. Okay, that's our bad, guys. So it turns out that Matthew on that last turn was at 5, which let him cast the Mutagenic, pay 4, and then cast Become Immense and swing for lethal. So that's on us. So Matthew Andrews does win this match. I messed up the prowess triggers on that triple attack by those 3. So Matthew Andrews is going to take it down. That's why we were so confused.
But hey, the classic kill you at Noble Hierarchy.
Well, I mean, remember we were like, he can. We said it. We said he can aggressively fetch shock, except in the corner case where you get killed by a hierarch.
Right.
Well, that just happened. Do we have a backup match?
So we've got 19 minutes left in the round, and it looks like everyone's kind of wrapping up here.
Okay.
So we may just be ending tonight's stream a little bit early here.
Wow, that round's over quickly.
Yeah. It looks like everyone's on game 3, and this is our last round here. Yeah. So just to wrap this up, if you're in the Chicagoland area, there's going to be 5 pre-releases here at MTGCardmarket all weekend. So yeah, come down here if you want a chance of cracking a masterpiece, or just honestly like a pretty exciting set.
It seems like the power level's super high.
Yeah, the power level seems significantly higher and significantly more aggressive than what we've seen in the past.
I mean, I'm hoping to see, standard. I'm interested in seeing what happens in standard, like companies rotating. So, since Battle for Zendikar came out, company has been so dominant because it was in all the rally decks and then the Bank Company decks in this most recent cycle, but it's gone now, so that it opens up a whole new space of what's going to get played.
No, absolutely, and it'll be it's just super exciting just to see a new set, a new rotation.
New sweet brews, vehicles are going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kill someone with Start Your Engines. I'm going to have a fleet of vehicles that can't be crewed because I didn't draft enough creatures, and then I'm just going to be like, wham, Start Your Engines, get them for 20.
Exactly. But other than that, if you're in the area, there's Modern every Wednesdays at 7:30. There's an excellent turnout every week, so if you're interested in playing for it, it's only $10. And then price support here is quite good.
It's quite good.
So, it's a great time. There's honestly there's an event every day here. Thursday is Legacies, also at 7:30. Friday F&M, which are winner boxes. in addition to normal payout,
F&M win a box is crazy.
which is, I mean,
Like,
it is by far the best payout I've seen
At an
anywhere in
F&M?
the country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
And then Mondays, there's another win a box for standard. Tuesdays are drafts. Wednesdays, modern.
Yeah, wrap all the way around.
Yeah.
Also, the store has a collection of board games. So if you're interested in playing board games, you can come down and try some of the selection they have on their shelves. I know that it's a program that they recently started, but the whole store here is making a real effort to sort of get board games in and get playing with people. Thursday night is game night at 7 o'clock before Legacy, and today when we came in, Paul, the manager, and a couple of other guys were. Couple other employees were learning how to play Pandemic so that they can help teach board games if they need to. So it's not we're branching out a little bit here from just Magic, but yeah, this is if you want to play Magic in the Chicagoland area, definitely the place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for Modern, holy moly.
And for those who have not qualified yet for the next RPTQ, there's a 1K PPTQ on October 8th. It's, as far as PPTQs go, excellent payout.
Right.
And it's as you can see here, there's a healthy contingent of Modern players here.
Right.
So.
And with that with that PPTQ, right? Like normally, you win you like get semis, you win a box or whatever, and like you don't get your RPTQ. But here you get semis or you get $100. Right. So that's pretty good. Like I feel like that's a good use of the day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And other than that, we really appreciate you guys checking back in with the stream after such a long hiatus.
Yeah, we had more numbers than Dan and I expected tonight, and we really appreciate it. We're gonna be back next week. Oh, and to answer one last question from the chat, S063, we're not gonna play Blank Space because then Twitch will mute our VODs, and we would like people to be able to access those when that happens.
Unfortunately, however, you're free to play Blank Space as much as you'd like on your own time.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
But other than that, I think that wraps it up for us tonight. Thank you all again for joining us on the stream, and have a good night.
Yep, see you next Wednesday.